Board of Directors, Bree Mignoni, District Clerk, Director Pasternak,
Here.
Director Potter,
Here.
Director Roberts,
Present.
Vice President Axworthy is excused, President Vickers.
Present. Approval of agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second the motion.
I have a motion and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Bill's turn. Next will be the invocation by Mr. Robert Hernandez, Pueblo West.
Good evening, everybody. Let us all bow our heads this evening. Lord, we come before you tonight asking you to be with us, to lead us, guide us throughout this evening's agenda. That as we come together to discuss these things before us, we can present it with wisdom and knowledge. That we will have an open mind before we speak and try to bring a resolution to every situation. I know without your direction, we have a harder time to see what is right. So with respect to one another, that after a hard day of work, we can all step back, take a breath, and be ready to start this meeting with the future of this community at heart. I pray that everyone in this room will be blessed for everything they put into this community, being away from their families and taking time out and putting things to motion to better this community. So tonight I ask you, Lord, to bless everyone in this room as we go forward in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Next we have public comments.
Pledge allegiance.
Oh, I'm sorry, Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we'll do public comments.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Breanne Mignoni, District Clerk. We do have a few that have submitted online. I did not have anybody sign up in person, but the first one comes from Willie Peterson at 961 South Sweetwater Lane. Dear Pueblo West board members, I am writing to express my profound concerns regarding several critical issues within the Pueblo West Fire Department, which I believe are directly impacted by the board's decision to limit public comment. This limitation unfortunately creates an environment where vital community feedback, particularly on serious matters, can be stifled. I have observed extensive community discussions, particularly concerning the proposed 6A ballot measure, which highlight a disturbing pattern of misleading information being disseminated. It is imperative that the community understands precisely where these funds are intended to go, especially given the systemic issues I will outline below. My concerns begin at the operational level of the Pueblo West Fire Department, drawing from information shared by multiple sources within the department. Specifically, I have learned of the following situations: questionable pay grade and conduct. There is a firefighter currently employed as an EMT who is reportedly being compensated at a paramedic's pay scale, despite not having passed the required paramedic certification. Furthermore, this individual is on state probation for a domestic violence conviction. This firefighter was terminated from previous positions within Alamosa Fire and their ambulance service following his arrest. The apparent disregard for these serious offenses and the continued inappropriate compensation raised significant questions about the department's hiring practices and accountability standards. It also suggests a concerning pattern where the HR director may be circumventing established policy and influencing board decisions without full disclosure of critical information. Unaddressed threats by assistant chief. I am also aware of an assistant chief who was investigated for threatening to kill his wife, who is also a firefighter within the department. Disturbingly, due to alleged influence from the fire chief and another assistant chief, this investigation was reportedly halted before formal charges could be filed. The situation creates a chilling precedent and undermines trust in the department's ability to address serious misconduct impartially. Lack of accountability for another assistant chief. Another assistant chief consistently demonstrates a lack of understanding by his duties as evidenced by incidents such as using a Pueblo West Fire vehicle for personal pursuits. This individual, like others mentioned, appears to be shielded from accountability due to a close relationship with the fire chief. These incidences lead directly to the conduct of the fire chief himself. While he recently stepped down as district manager, which was publicly framed as focusing more on the fire department, the facts suggest a more troubling narrative. This chief was responsible for what could be the largest lawsuit in Pueblo West history. During a meeting in front of HR and other personnel, he reportedly made a comment stating someone should just kill her, directed at an employee. Following this, he attempted to terminate the employee, leading to a lawsuit. The outcome was his demotion from district manager, and the employee was reinstated. The fact that the chief retained his position within the department after such a grave incident raises serious concerns about the HR department's selective application of accountability. The department frequently cites transparency and accountability as core values. However, the incidences detailed above clearly demonstrate a significant disparity between these stated values and the actual practices. Only informed deemed favorable is revealed, while critical issues and misconduct at higher levels are seemingly concealed. This department is actively advocating for the 6A measure, yet its internal operations are, by many accounts, deeply flawed and akin to a cesspool that desperately needs reform. Myself and many others concerned members of the community are unwilling to support additional tax dollars being allocated to an organization that evidently requires a comprehensive cleanup and restructuring starting from the top. As you can see, many firefighters have come to me with great concerns about what is going on within the fire department, but are not able to come forward due to retaliation from the chief. As you can see, even if there is a retaliation, the HR isn't going to do anything about except try to please the chief. I urge the board to thoroughly investigate these allegations and take decisive actions to restore integrity and accountability within the Pueblo West Fire Department. Okay, sorry, need a second. Okay, next one comes from Richard Jones, 201 South McCulloch. The entire administrative leadership of Pueblo West Metropolitan District is a disgrace, starting with every member of the board to the out-of-town living district manager to the leadership team of directors, of which only a couple actually live in Pueblo West. The biggest disgrace is Mr. Matt Lund from Business Administration at the last board meeting openly stating that it is not his job and he is not in the business of managing social media, as well as talking down to the community that pays his salary by stating that maybe the community found something better to do with their time, instead of posting on district's Facebook page regarding the community in which they actually live, unlike Mr. Lund. What's even more of a slap in the face to the citizens of Pueblo West is after Mr. Lund decided managing social media was not his job or the job of his department, they had the audacity to post on Pueblo West Metro's official Facebook page the following. We'd like to thank our Pueblo West community members who recently tagged the Metro District in a Facebook post regarding the March 9th Board of Directors meeting. We appreciate your engagement and want to ensure you that the comments shared were provided the Board of Directors for awareness and consideration. So shutting down comments on your own social media page, stating it's not your job, then thanking the roughly 100 people that commented out of the roughly 36,000 people that live in Pueblo West from a private community Facebook group is hypocrisy at its finest. I would bet most of those comments came from the very district employees disguised as anonymous users not wanting to actually go to work. Interesting how the comments only matter when the top paid personnel of the Metro District are about to lose their plush and cush work environments from home in their pajamas. If they can work from home, they can work from anywhere. Office space has nothing to do with it. I ask and urge that the board does not waver on this decision and not only gets all of these six-figure salary employees into the office every day, but also holds them unequivocally accountable for disrespecting and demeaning the very community that pays their salary. Thank you, Richard. Yeah, I got it. Thank you. And then the next one comes from Nick Madero. It says, I know it's last minute, but is there any way you can announce at the meeting that MPC Pest Division will be collecting donations for the firefighters fighting the 24 fire? We'll be collecting bottled water, Gatorade, and non-perishable snacks between 7:30 and 2:30 at 359 East Enterprise Drive, Suite 18. I know it's last minute, but I am just now trying to get everything organized. Nick Madero. And is there anyone in person that didn't sign up that wanted to have a public comment in person? That's it.
Thank you, Bree. On Nick's post, did he say what day he's doing those collections?
So the one, sorry, let me go back to it. So he stated that the meeting that MPC Pest Division will be collecting donations for firefighters. It doesn't state a
Okay,
date.
just drop them off at any time, I assume.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, is there one more? Sorry, I guess there is one more. Sorry about that. The next one comes from Mr. Joe Mahaney. I feel sending the detailed letter with attachments outlining All the concerns citizens at Pueblo West have is a great idea. I would encourage the board to support it. Regards, Joe Mahaney. Sorry, I didn't get that one. Thank you.
Is that a letter that we got, Christian? Is that a letter that he forwarded? Because I don't see it.
Sorry?
Is that a letter that he forwarded to the board?
I don't know if Joe's here. I thought so, I was trying. It says, the attachments, and I don't think I was able to see any attachments.
Oh.
My
Oh.
guess, the only letter to the Pueblo County Commissioners on the agenda is the one for the roads, and that's at the end of the packet, so that's what I'm assuming, but I may be incorrect.
Thank you. Thank you, Bree. Director's comments. Mr. Pasternak?
I made an error at the last meeting regarding one of the comparable sales on Big R. So you can throw that out the window. That one in particular. I think that was after they had built the property. I'm just thinking about those public comments right now. I think that if we are not accepting comments on our Facebook page, then we should not,
Be making comments?
we should not, I don't know what you want to say, link to another page and say thank you for these comments. I think that to the point at the last board meeting, it was either all or nothing. So I just think it's got to be all or nothing to include linking to other pages. I guess that's it for now.
I would agree with that. If it's all or nothing, on the Facebook page. Again, you know where I stand on that. We got plenty of avenues for people to speak. But as far as that goes, that's all I have. I'm just agreeing with what he was saying. Just turn off the links, turn off the comments, nothing.
No comments at this time, Bill.
And I don't have any comments myself. All right. Next is a special presentation recognizing Ms. Leanna Lowe for her distinguished and outstanding service as a member of Pueblo West Metropolitan District Committee of Architecture. Do you want to go up to the table, Leanna, and I'll read this, and then I'll bring you a plaque.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd just like to say I've had the pleasure of working with Ms. Lowe since she's been on the committee. We've been on and off of it together for a long time, and she's done an excellent job fulfilling duties of a COA committee member. She's taken her position very seriously, and she really cares about the community. So this is a resolution that we have, a resolution recognizing Leanna Lowe for her distinguished and outstanding service as a member of the Pueblo West Metropolitan District Committee of Architecture. Whereas Pueblo West Metropolitan District is a Colorado Special District and Metropolitan District with those powers set forth in Title 32 of the Colorado Revised Statutes and other applicable laws, which are called forth here to the full extent of the laws of the state of Colorado by the Board of Directors of the Pueblo West Metropolitan District. Whereas Leanna Lowe served the Pueblo West Metropolitan District and its citizens as a Committee of Architecture member from March 27th, 2012 to March 24th, 2026. And whereas Leanna Lowe's service was characterized throughout as one of hard work, diligent, and community spiritedness. And whereas through Leanna Lowe's untiring efforts, Leanna Lowe did bring positive and capable leadership to the Committee of Architecture. And whereas Leanna Lowe made valuable and worthy contributions to the Committee of Architecture and the Pueblo West District, and whereas it is recognized that the district is a better place to live and work because of Leanna Lowe's efforts and contributions.
And now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of Pueblo West Metropolitan District, we wish that Leanna Lowe good health, good fortune, and best of luck in her endeavors. I certify that the foregoing is a full and true correct copy of a resolution duly passed and adopted at a regularly held meeting of the Board of Directors of Pueblo West Metropolitan District on this 23rd day of March, 2026. So I'm going to make a motion to accept this resolution.
I second the motion to accept it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And I want to personally thank you for your selfless service.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Is Miss Lowe an employee or is she a
Volunteer.
community member? Okay.
Well, thank you very much. That kind of makes me humble. I really enjoyed learning and volunteering. So thank you very much for this. It means a lot.
Thank
Oh,
you.
we
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you.
Thank you. Come back anytime.
Hopefully we can get 30,000
For
more.
you.
even.
Next, we have celebrating excellence from the finance, it's a Finance Department Award 2024, the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from Karen Cordova, our Finance Director.
Good evening, President Vickers and board members. This evening, I would like to tell you a little bit about our award. The Government Finance Officers Association has awarded the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting to Pueblo West Metropolitan District for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024. The report has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the report. Pueblo West Metro District has received this award consistently since at least 2012. While this recognition is not new to the Finance Department, it reflects the high standards and expectations of our profession. I felt it was important to highlight this achievement to the board this year, especially as several members are new and may not yet be familiar with this honor and level of work it represents. At this time, I would like to recognize our Finance Department staff. Here with me, I have Ron Erickson, the accountant in the department, and we have Michael Winters, our procurement manager. At home, I have Lisa Amos, our senior accounting technician, who is homesick. Anita Crane, an accounting technician in the department. And Barbara Eggson, our accounting and excise tax technician. Each of these individuals plays an integral role in this achievement. Their dedication, professionalism, and commitment to both the team and the community are what make this continued success possible. I want to thank them all for their hard work and continued excellence.
Thank you, Karen. Thanks to Finance for the great job they do. Next, we'll have a presentation by Steel City Solar by Mr. George Andrews.
Madam Clerk, may I pass out some information to the board? The bills. Just going to share copies of the recent bills. May have them already. Good evening, members of the board, members of the public. My name is George Andrews. I'm the business development manager for Steel City Solar. We were invited here tonight by Director Potter, and we have reviewed the January 2026 Black Hills Energy Bill, and we have about a 15-minute presentation to go over information about what the bills say, as well as propose a high-level energy strategy for the Metro District here. So I'm going to walk you through exactly where the dollars are going and suggest recommendations on what we can do to save money for the Pueblo West Metro District. Next slide, please. So the current reality, this January, Pueblo West Metro paid over $26,000 for electricity. That is $863 every day. The district consumed about 161,000 kilowatt hours across 34 meters. That's about 20 average houses worth of electricity. And at $863 per day, that's greater than $300,000 per year. Next slide, please. So where the $26,000 goes each month, 61% goes directly to the delivery and distribution of your energy. That is the cost of simply being connected to the grid. So solar and net metering eliminates this charge because excess solar generation offsets dollar for dollar. Another 30% is the direct energy supply. This is the natural gas used to power Black Hills Pueblo Airport Generating Station, PAGS. That's the electricity itself. And as you know, natural gas is a commodity subject to price fluctuations. And so, we're anticipating natural gas price to increase in the foreseeable future with the current geopolitical conflict. The remaining 9% of the bill goes to demand charges that battery storage targets, as well as Black Hills program riders. Next slide, please. And so the problem, energy prices are going up and there's no sign of them coming down. So the trend that we found alarming, from last year to this year, the district used 12% less energy, but the bill still went up 12% from $23,000 to $26,000. And that is the reality of being connected to the grid. Efficiency measures can happen, but those are still being outpaced by rate increases. And Black Hills energy rates are projected to rise 3 to 5% annually. And without an energy plan, every year of delay can cost the district more money for the same electricity. Next slide, please. The top energy consuming facilities, 58% of the entire bill, about $15,000, comes from the wastewater treatment plant at 1370 Grouse Road. This should be the primary target. If you do nothing else, then address the energy use for this one facility. You've addressed a majority of the district's energy cost. And the next three sites collectively represent another 23% of the costs, making them ideal for the next phase of the project. And then everything else, about 13%, can be addressed through meter aggregation, which I will talk more about in the next few slides. Next slide, please. Before we talk about savings, a key differentiator between two very different charges on your bill. First, kilowatt hours. That's the total energy consumption over the month, much like the miles you drive in a car. And solar directly generates your kilowatt hours, eliminating your energy supply cost as well as the delivery. And second is your kilowatt demand, or KW. That's the peak power draw at any 15-minute window during the billing cycle. So that is like the horsepower of the facility, the instantaneous draw. The wastewater plant hit 232 kilowatts of peak demand in January. And so at $28 per kilowatt, that's right about $6,500 in demand charges in 1 month for one site. And this is where industrial battery storage addresses these demand charges. Next slide, please. And so the technology in action, this is the technology working in sequence. During peak solar production hours, solar charges batteries. The battery control system monitors facility load in real time, watching for any demand spikes. And then the moment that load approaches the peak demand threshold, the battery discharges automatically, clipping the demand spike before the utility records it. And this is not theoretical, this is active and in Pueblo County as we speak. Battery storage are being installed, operating, and delivering measurable demand charge reduction at municipal facilities all across Colorado. And batteries have come down 80% in price in the last decade, making the economics really strong for a facility with a $6,500 monthly demand charge. And even smaller batteries can provide real savings, even just half or a quarter of the demand charge can be addressed. Next slide, please. And so at time of use rate, the battery storage is your best option. The wastewater treatment plant is on Black Hills time of use large general service rate. That charges different prices of electricity depending on the time when electricity is used. So on peak during 3 to 7 p.m., consumption of electricity is about 2 cents per kilowatt hour. Off peak is about 1 cent, but the demand charges are the large part of the bill that is where most of the rate code is charged. That's how Black Hills is able to make their money. But battery storage arbitrages this structure by charging batteries during off-peak windows using solar generation, then discharges the battery during on-peak hours to avoid both higher consumption and demand spikes. But beyond the rate arbitrage, Black Hills also applies a rolling highest demand in 11 months billing mechanism. So that means one bad month can drive demand charges for nearly a year. So if any equipment malfunctions, an unusual heat event, that could cause the demand for the entire year. And so battery storage prevents new peaks from being set. Next slide, please. So this is the Black Hills rate code guide. The district has 34 meters with 6 different rate codes, and each one has a different optimal strategy to save money. As mentioned, the time of use large general service rate at the wastewater plant is a top priority. It has both demand charge and time of use pricing, meaning solar plus batteries offer dual savings. And so the large general service secondary rate at the pumping station also carry a demand charge. Battery storage is another primary tool here. And smaller sites like the small general service N and the flat rate, no demand rate, are ideal candidates for meter aggregation under a centralized solar array, which I'll speak on in the next slide. And street lighting on the per fixture rate is best addressed through LED conversions. So definitely the street lights, you'd want to make sure those are all LED lights. And next slide, please. So meter aggregation, Colorado law and Black Hills territory allows for a centralized solar installation to offset electricity costs across 4 separate utility meters. Instead of building 34 separate solar systems for 34 meters, the district could install 8 or 9 strategically positioned installations that collectively serve all accounts. Black Hills administers the net metering credits across the aggregated meters each billing cycle. And so fewer systems means a lower installation cost, faster deployment, centralized maintenance, and a single warranty and service relationship. And next slide, please. In Colorado, it's a solar powerhouse, especially here in southern Colorado. Pueblo West is one of the best areas for solar in all the state and really all the United States, receiving over 300 days of sunshine per year. That's more than Miami or Honolulu. And Colorado ranks top 5 for solar energy. And as a public entity, the IRS allows the district to receive a 30% direct elective payment from the federal government with no tax liability required, and this is preserved under the current federal administration One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So next slide, please. So looking at a project in different phases, the first phase would be to address the energy costs at the wastewater treatment plant, and then looking at additional sites depending on the budget and appetite for an energy project of this nature. But you also want to confirm the streetlights are LED, and that could, the LED streetlight conversions could pay for themselves in as little as 3 years. Next slide, please. So different financing, how to structure a project like this. Certainly there's cash purchase available with the IRS direct payment. You would get 30% back immediately from the federal government. There's also municipal loan offerings through the Collective Clean Energy Fund, Colorado Clean Energy Fund, designed specifically for public entities. You could also look to issue a municipal bond. And then additionally, looking at an energy performance contract where a qualified energy service company through the state of Colorado acts as a general contractor that would look at all of the district facilities for all utility spend, electric, water, as well as heating and natural gas. And so those performance contracts do have to pay for themselves, in which I do have experience issuing an RFP for when I was with the city of Pueblo, before that position was ultimately defunded. Next slide, please. And there's certainly non-financial impacts more than just dollars. Currently, the Pueblo West Metro account emits 747 tons of CO2 per year, just with grid electricity consumption. And even with a 50% offset alone, that's like planting 1,600 trees. The state of Colorado Clean Energy Plan targets 100% clean electricity by 2040. And so the state is really favorable for these projects. They want to see more renewable energy come to the state, despite the federal administration headwinds that are currently present. Next slide, please. So acting on this with quick wins, definitely the first priority would be to look at the wastewater treatment facility. There's also a couple zero usage accounts showing 0 kilowatt hours, but still present with charges at about $20 each month. Looked like maybe some ancillary water pumps that might not be active at that time, but definitely want to confirm those are still active and those are being being utilized properly, as well as confirming the streetlights are LED, and LED conversion would save about 50 to 70% on electricity cost. And next slide. So really, why is now the moment to act? There's still federal incentives available for municipalities with the 30% IRS elective pay. Solar costs continue to trend down. Supply chains are strong. Diverse energy mixes are important to the grid, keeping prices down. Without doing anything, energy prices will keep rising. As we see, despite using 12% less energy, the bill still grew by 12%. There's no anticipation that Black Hills Energy will decrease rates anytime soon. With inflation, as well as Black Hills going to the Public Utilities Commission looking for rate increases, they're anticipated to rise about 3 to 5% annually. So with every year of delay, it's going to keep costing the account more money for the same amount of electricity generated. And for us, Steel City Solar is local. We've been in business for 10 years. So we're local to the area. We've gone all over the state. Veteran owned and operated, licensed electricians, and fully committed to this community's energy future. So really the next steps, it would be to look at issuing an RFP for the wastewater treatment plant. We do have channel partners that we could refer you to help write that RFP. And then we would look at the electrical. The contractor would handle all paperwork for the IRS elective pay, as well as determine the payment options. That would be something the board would have to look at. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
The only thing I got is to let the public know what my thought process of what is on this. And it's the water treatment facility, wastewater, came up and said their bill is on the increase and on the rise. And I thought to myself, well, how can we help offset these kind of things? How can we better our community with other alternate energy sources? And solar came to my mind. And so looking through, and the people that are most local here was Steel City, so I reached out to them and asked if they could present something to us, and provided some information that we may not have known before. But the thing that was compelling to me was the 12% to the 12%. It matched the difference of the costs versus the electrical grid going up. So it's a one-for-one deal, basically, almost. So that's kind of intriguing. Now, did you do any of the, because we have as St. Isabel too, right? We're on St. Isabel. Did you do anything for St. Isabel, or did you just look at the ones that were the most dramatic at the moment?
We preliminary looked at the account that I believe is just the water. So everything that is on the handout, that is what we looked at.
Okay.
I'm sure with San Isabel, though, it's the same. I mean,
Gotcha.
we would look at those. We would just need to look at those bills.
This is just to help give a quick synopsis of what we got and a screenshot of what we have within the community. What was the other thing? I'm all about solar when it comes to individual facilities, buildings, so on and so forth. I'm not too fond of these big solar farms, and that's why I thought about maybe see who could help us maybe look forward to putting some solar systems in our facilities to help offset these costs. And that's what my thought process was. So that's all I got. And I really appreciate you guys. It was a quick turnaround too. I asked them, and within a week they were ready to go. So I thought it was pretty good. I had them talk to Christian and some other staff members to make sure we were all right with this, and and so on and so forth. So I just look forward to hopefully working this out in the future and seeing if we can save some costs somewhere with our electricity and electric bill. You already mentioned the grants was basically what was up there, right? That's the other things we're looking at too, is the grants and how we can help facilitate some of those and recoup some of that funds back by the grants that they offer as well to municipalities. So,
Right.
but that's it in a nutshell. Anybody else?
Were the grants the 30% IRS thing?
So that is still a federal incentive. Currently, the state is more favorable for offering grant dollars, not so much on the federal level. The Colorado Energy Office is a really good resource for funding projects for municipalities, whether it be through the energy performance contracting. They do have a couple resiliency and planning grants available that open on and off on a rolling basis. But for the municipality, the greatest incentive would be that 30% direct pay through the IRS, and that would be paperwork that
So that's,
we would
you
have
pay
to
$1
fill
million
out.
for the system, and the federal government gives you back 300,000.
Correct.
Christian, are we tracking the zero usage accounts? Can we look into that?
We can look into that, see what's going on there.
We're doing that wastewater treatment plant upgrade. Did anybody talk to Kevin about what we might be able to? I'm just curious if we're doing the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. So is there a way to consider looking at something like this in that upgrade?
It's possible you can incorporate it, yeah.
Incorporate it, yeah. I think that's all I have.
So per kilowatt, how much we're looking at getting back per kilowatt?
Well, it depends on how big the system is, what the appetite is for the project, whether it just be one site or multiple sites. But across this account, just with Black Hills, you would need probably about 1 megawatt of solar to offset all the meters. With just the wastewater treatment plant, you're looking at about half of that, so about a 500 kilowatt system size. Solar payback, though, it's about a 6-year payback for an investment like this.
Yeah, but what's the payback credit per kilowatt?
Per kilowatt, how, I guess I'm not understanding per kilowatt what the cost is per solar kilowatt hour.
Okay, so when I had Black Hills on 169 South Circle Drive, and I had solar, and I still have solar, but I'm not using them at my current location. The payback was 11 cents per kilowatt. And we get a check at the end of the year, but the amount didn't add up to how much the credits came to. Okay, so I was just looking at industry trends on my phone, and in the year 2023 was a very high year for sales for solar in Colorado, but 2024 and to present has been a low downturn trend, their exact wording, up to today's date. And I was just wondering if you could explain why that is.
So currently with Black Hills, per kilowatt hour, it's about 20 cents on the residential side as a basis. With solar, it's about a 5 cent per kilowatt hour cost. But also the state of the industry, it's a mature solar market. Financing is more challenging than it has been in the past previous years. Interest rates are elevated. A lot of people that wanted solar have solar already, so that would probably account for the lack of new sales or limited sales. But specifically for Black Hills Energy being the most expensive utility, or the top 3 most expensive utility in the state, it still pencils out really well for people that want to make that investment.
Okay. My other question is you were talking about the carbon footprint for just the wastewater side and how much carbon footprint it was to manufacture that many kilowatts to provide that service. Okay. But what is the carbon footprint for manufacturing the solar or wind turbine energy sources?
Yeah, we hear that a lot. The carbon footprint, it's based on natural gas as well as what is used for manufacturing process. But the materials in the solar panels, it's glass, aluminum, steel, and most solar panel manufacturers already have solar on the facility itself. The materials we use, they're all premium tier 1 materials made in the U.S., rated for the Colorado elements. So the technology has evolved quite a bit in the past 10 years. But with any carbon-based process, there's still going to be externalities of manufacturing or just electricity use.
So when I put my solar in, it cost me $55,000, 37 250 kilowatt panels with an in-phase metering system. Okay, so what I got paid at the end of the year was no way to make up for the $55,000 that I took out of my retirement with a TSP loan, which is a thrift savings plan. Okay, so I borrowed my own money out of my retirement to purchase that solar. And in the first 10 years at 169 South Circle Drive, I only made about $11,000. Never made any of that up. So I would like to think that before we move forward with any project, that we're going to take in consideration that the pros are going to outweigh the cons financially, and we can reassure the public of that.
So to comment on that, that I believe is primarily because if you do not choose to roll over the credits produced year over year, Black Hills will pay you out at their wholesale rate, which is about 2 cents per kilowatt hour compared to the 20 cents that you're paying for grid power. So the system, we would set it up where the credits would be rolled over month. So it is like a banking system where during the summer months, the production is strong. Those credits for every kilowatt hour produced are stored with Black Hills in their system, and then in the winter months when it's cloudy, the days aren't as long, sunlight hours, the account is able to draw on those credits.
I have no more questions.
I know nothing about solar. I think in order to pursue it, though, I would want some more numbers that show that the potential savings outweighs the cost over 25 years. What happens at the end of 25 years? And how long these things
Warranty on the panels
are
run out.
warranted? What happens at that point, you know, with the investment? More or less an ROI on our total outlay and what it really is going to produce and how much it's gonna save. Not to say that I'm not interested in solar, I just, you know, haven't been convinced yet of its viability in the long run. I would like more information, more numbers myself. So at this point, I don't know what's the direction that we do to try to figure anything out.
Oh, this was just a presentation phase, and I think we did talk to Christian and our procurement team and get other numbers out there to see what we have and see what there is for cost savings and so on and so forth. I mean, they have a 25-year warranty system, and I think there are a lot of programs out there at the moment that benefit us, but I understand everybody's some reluctancy in it because, again, a lot of people don't know it. I know my bill is practically zero now after getting solar.
You don't pay anything for electricity, but you paid for the system, right? So
I paid for the system, right,
so
but,
what does that equate
okay, so
to bill?
I'll get a little bit personal. My bill was about almost $600 a month on my electricity bill, and it went basically down to zero. And then at the end of the year, I didn't do the, where it rolls over, I get the check at the end of the year, and then for like 2 months, I get like a $180 bill, and the check that I get outweighs those at the end of the year, so I have basically a zero bill.
But you paid something for the system, right?
Right, I paid, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you how much I paid for my system, but it's paid, my system's basically paid off. I have no bills in my electricity bill for, going on 2 years now.
Okay. Just,
So that's 600 times 12 times 24, what's that?
8,400 per year. Nope, that's not right. 7,200 per year. $600 per month times 12.
Yeah.
$7,200
So,
per year.
yeah, so $14,400 or better.
I don't do math in public.
Yeah, I know.
all right.
I'm just saying,
Yeah, just more info, that's all.
yeah.
Thank-
Thank you very much.
Wait.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to offer I appreciate the presentation, conversation, and discussion tonight. As far as next steps, we might take some of the information, evaluate further, answer some questions or be able to identify it, and it may come up in another discussion item to say, hey, here's what we have discovered, or at least what we think we know at this time. Share if there's any information we're missing, get direction from the board. If it were to move forward with an RFP, that would take board action, because it's not something we budgeted for in this year. So that was where that conversation will probably take next.
Carl, you had something you wanted?
May I ask a
Yes,
couple questions?
You may.
Just a couple offhand. Number one, has Steel City done any installs for any other local governments in southern Colorado?
We have completed the solar for the 3 new City of Pueblo fire stations.
Rooftop solar?
Correct, yes.
Any experience with battery energy storage systems, BESS?
Yes, we currently have 5 sites under active development that I cannot comment further because it's not public information yet.
And what's your estimated commercial operation date for those?
That would be in May as well as October.
Of this year?
Yes.
Okay. You said that the availability of solar panels has stabilized. What is the turnaround time for getting them these days?
We have pretty strong relationships with our distributors in Denver, primarily ABC Supply and CED Supply. Pretty much they have panel availability, different brands, different panel wattages, but really we can call them for an order and it can be delivered tomorrow. A megawatt of solar is different than a typical residential size, but
Sure.
With the right forecasting, I mean, we can receive materials within 30 to 60 days.
What size of a BESS would you be anticipating using at the wastewater treatment plant?
Well, to completely offset the demand charges, it would have to be at least 250 kilowatts. But even a smaller battery at 100 kilowatts or less could still offer savings by reducing the demand charge.
Would a 250 kW system allow you to discharge at all non-generating times of day?
For the wastewater plant, the solar would probably have to be at least 500 kilowatts of solar.
I don't have any other, one other question. Are you considering just a solar array and best pair? Or are you actually thinking about something that looks more like a microgrid?
We have engaged with microgrid developers in the past, primarily though for demand shaving, peak shaving, we would just use battery plus the control system to tell the battery when to discharge. We could look at a microgrid for a number of sites, but that does come at a different cost. Being
Right.
a microgrid on its own, it would have its own functionality, so there would be more technology involved, higher cost to that.
So basically, the savings that you're looking for are peak shaving savings.
Correct. That is based on this initial preliminary discussion.
Great. Thank you, George, very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thank you,
Appreciate
George.
your time. Next is the enterprise lease by Sean Winters, Director of Operational Support.
Good evening, President Vickers, members of the board. Tonight, we have a presentation by Nate, our client strategy manager at Enterprise. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce her last name for fear that I butcher it, but Nate's with us tonight virtually, and I will turn the presentation over to Nate.
I was on mute. So thank you, amazing board members for having me. Funny enough is I got to see Steel City Solar and I was watching virtually so I can make sure I came on at the perfect time. And it must have been delayed because I was like, oh, they're calling me in. So here I am. Again, thank you everybody for your time today. Today's meeting, we are going to talk about Enterprise and Pueblo West Metro District's partnership. We really just want to make sure board members as well as the public have an understanding of our partnership and then what we have to offer, okay? So I am going to turn off my camera because I tend to freeze as I start to share. Here is this. Okay. I can see everybody. Someone might say yes or raise your hand if you can see my presentation. Great. Thank you everybody for raising your hand. So again, I have a pretty quick slide. There's probably about 4 to 5 different slides. A lot of it is going to be conversational. I will have questions at the end, so just let me know as you have questions. So as we talk about the partnership with Enterprise and a lot of our community and government entities, we do actually have quite a few different partners in Colorado. You can see them listed here today. Obviously, as a government entity, you want to make sure you're doing your due diligence as well when you are sourcing out partners. So I am proud to say we have been on Sourcewell since 2018. So whenever going for RFP or anything along those lines, you know that you are doing your due diligence and making sure you're partnering with the best people possible, right? Here are a couple of other people we partner with, which is TIPS, as well as E&I. talking about fleet management, I just want to give you a high-level scope of what we do. So people tend to think we just buy your vehicles. That is not my purpose. My purpose is to be a fleet consultant and a fleet financial advisor to you and your community. So that starts from the acquisition of a vehicle, financial options, everything in the middle, which is going to be all of your operational costs, all the way to the end of the resale. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're also supporting you in other aspects, whether it's driver safety, telematics, fuel programs, all of those different pieces. So again, as we go through today's presentation, just keep in mind that we are focused on every single part of your business when it comes to the fleet. Again, kind of going through what you guys were talking about before is I know you want to see the different options and understanding what's going on with the industry. Whenever I come out to the team and meet with them 3 times a year, we go over acquisition, all the different types of incentives you see year over year, the different types of vehicles you have, and then we're able to go through there so that way your team has all of the options available when making those decisions. Any specific questions on that? Okay, I'll keep going. This is something I usually go through with your team. It's going to be a high-level overview of our partnership. So again, we partnered back in 2019. I had the privilege of starting that partnership on my end and coming into Enterprise Fleet Management in about 2021. You guys currently have 71 units. Of those 71 units, 52 are leased. Based on the information that we receive through whether it be maintenance or telematics, we see your average miles per year is about 6,400. And then your average odometer is about 18,000. We currently have 6 units on order, 1 lease expiring. Again, here's always the really exciting information. As you can see here that over the last 12 months, over 11 vehicles, we have secured $171 in gains to bring back to the community. So that's money that you guys are getting in once you sell the vehicle, and then you're able to put it back into the fleet to keep those costs either stable or lower it. Overall, 25 vehicles that we did lease and then end up selling, you guys received about $304,000 in equity or in gains. A couple of the observations we always go over with our government entities is we recognize that you guys do low mileage, but we also think about the safety aspects of your vehicles. So based on your vehicles today, you have about 2 vehicles that predate anti-lock, 3 vehicles that predate electronic stability. You got that rear automatic braking. And then even if you think about your backup cameras, there's about 9 vehicles that didn't have that standard backup camera. So again, as these vehicles are operating in your community, we want to make sure they are safe for not only your drivers, but everyone around you. Lease expense about that $631,000, and then your maintenance is about $57,000. The product summary for us, it's important to understand with full maintenance, we're able to budget in your maintenance cost. So based on the information that we've been able to gather over the last couple of years, we're able to reset your lease structure and really understand the mileage that you're going to be doing. Based on that, Enterprise works with a lot of different vendors. Even, you know, you guys are able to leverage Enterprise Rental and the data we're able to get from them. From that, we're able to say, okay, from 0 to 50,000 miles, they're going to do this type of maintenance. We anticipate this is preventative and this is non-preventative. Based on that information, we're able to budget a number of monthly expense that goes into your lease. You also have maintenance management on any of your client-owned vehicles. What that does for you is able to consolidate all of that maintenance information as well as put controls around those costs. So when you think of Bob just got hired and he's going to get an oil change. Well, if someone tries to upsell Bob on anything outside of an oil change and maybe some of the manufacturer recommended items, you have our national service team in place to make sure that they are spot checking based on mileage, based on the year, and seeing what he actually needs to do. At a certain threshold, it does go up for approval based on the cost, so that way you guys can either approve or deny it. This way you're not seeing the bill after the fact. On that program, we were actually able to save you roughly $7,000 due to negotiations, tech advice, goodwill assistance, types of items. We do meet with the team anywhere from 3 to 4 times a year. So again, we do try to keep fleet as top of mind because we recognize this is, if not your top 5, top 10 highest expenses. So we want to make sure we are putting information in front of you, especially as the industry changes. It's important to understand why we partnered as well. So again, it predates before I was a part of the fleet management team, but when you guys partnered in 2019 versus today, you can see the changes we've been able to, or how we've been able to impact the fleet. So you had 61 vehicles at the time when we partnered. You're now at 71. Keep in mind, as we rotate out of vehicles, it takes a little longer to sell your client-owned vehicles because we're getting those to auction. So that number is always fluid. Your average age when we first partnered was about 12 years. You have now gotten that down to 7. Your average odometer was about 76,000. So again, government entities, we never have concerns necessarily about your mileage patterns. It's primarily about the age you run your vehicles to and the safety aspects, and then really capitalizing on the equity that you can get for having such low mileage. But we were able to change that from 76,000 to about 18,000. Because you had older vehicles, you roughly had 10 miles per gallon. You've seen that increase to roughly 22. And then your holding period. So you used to hold vehicles for about 17 years, let them die, run them out. We've changed that to about 10 years. And again, as we talk about fleet management, the most exciting piece is what you're able to see on your average resale. Because you'd hold them so long, you just sell them for whatever they were worth. Now you see that resale went from around 1,175 to about 20,248. You guys have phenomenal resale, and again, you guys are able to capitalize on that low mileage. So to, put proof in the pudding, or I hope that's the saying, I just wanted to make sure I put this in front of you. These are your actual numbers year over year. So I always bring the presentation based on your guys' calendar year. So you can see prior period in 24 versus current period is 25. You could see how many vehicles you sold, on average, how long were they in service, your ending odometers, and then how long it took to sell. So we're normally selling your vehicles to a private market. That means that it's primarily going to be dealerships. So a lot of dealerships find your vehicles very appealing because then they're able to resell that to the market. You can see your average gains and loss. And then your average effective depreciation is what we really focus on. What that's saying is government entities are able to capitalize on really amazing incentives. Over the last couple of years, manufacturers have brought those back. Because you have such high incentives, you're able to buy low in factory order and then sell them for very high. So then what did you actually depreciate these vehicles for is what this number is going to be. So on average, the 9 units that we had in service for 49 months cost you roughly $140 per month in depreciation after we sold it. Because I love real life examples, here's another example of one of your vehicles. You had a 2021 Chevy Silverado 1500. We bought it for $31,000 when we first purchased it. Again, you didn't have very high mileage. We ended up selling that vehicle for $25,000. You can see right here, there is an RBV, or what we like to call a remaining book value. That means that we left a little buffer at the end because we recognize that you would at some point replace this vehicle. So there was no point in paying it down to zero. For that reason, and after we took out the RBV from the sale, you guys netted $15,000. And then I like to say, I'm not just a person that will give you one example. So let me know, you should be able to see my Excel sheet now, right? No. Okay. So these are all of your vehicles you can sell, or you have sold and you leased. Oh, you can't. Okay. Stop presenting, and then let me go to that page.
I can't read half of it, the
Okay. So you should be able to see it now, right? Okay, I could zoom in. I'll zoom in on the really good numbers that say, on average, after you sold your vehicles, based on the mileage, your vehicles cost you $183 per month on average of, what is this, 50 months? So there's where it's like the true benefit, is you guys are able to do everything from the front end, which is factory order your vehicles exactly the way you need it. You tend to find whenever you buy off of dealer lots, it's gonna come however they ordered it. No, the way we work is I work very closely with Sean and Chris and understand what they're using these vehicles for, why they need them, and then upfit them the way they need them. So we're able to factory order, less incentives. We operate it for roughly 5 years or so, which you know your maintenance is gonna remain low, and then we sell it for the best possible price. So that way you guys are able to use these funds and create a sustainable plan for your fleet. Again, I was able to join early on, and it sounds like sustainability and forecasting out for you guys is a big priority. So that's what we're here to help you do. As you can already see too, with government, there's a lot of changes that are always happening. Same thing with the auto industry. We're just here to be advisors to keep you informed on what is happening in the auto industry and how it impacts you. So, what questions do you have at this point?
You wanna start?
No, I don't have any.
No questions? I was so prepared.
He's thinking.
Can we, that's a ton of numbers to just, operate off the cuff here.
Absolutely.
Can we have that to review, that
Absolutely.
information?
Yes, I can. The benefit too is as we continue to talk about different systems and the costs, is your team also has access to an enterprise portal, which is free to you, as many administrators as you need, where you can pull all of this information. We want to make sure we're as transparent as possible. So you can pull your leases, you can pull your sales, maintenance information, anything. It actually even has some updates on the manufacturer order and cutoff dates. So that way, if you're interested in like, hey, maybe one day we'll want to look at Foresters versus doing the Equinoxes, we can actually show you that and be like, okay, here's the order dates, here's the cutoff dates, here's the total cost of ownership of going with Forester versus an Equinox. But yes, I could send this information over to Sean, so that way he can send it to you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And then a question for our staff, does this, what we're doing here with Enterprise, does this play into our E-mod score? As far as insurance, does this have anything to do with that, or does it help, or?
I would
something
say,
wouldn't hurt?
Christian J. Hine, district manager, I don't know if there's a direct one towards it, indirect for sure. The less likely we are to have an accident where a vehicle, an older vehicle, for instance, could cause an issue. The amount of times that it might be something that doesn't have safety devices in an older vehicle, that indirectly applies when it comes to the type of incidents we can expect to experience throughout a year. So having vehicles with those safety features absolutely does help our E-mod score.
I do have one question. Can you pull up how many vehicles we have that have four-wheel drive and crew cab or quad cab?
It's a mix. So it is a mix between actually regular cab and crew cab and super cab. So you have all of them in your fleet. And then what was your first question before that? Or 4x4s? All of your vehicles? Nope. It looks like primarily your chassis are 4x2. If there is a 4x2, everything else from what I can see is a 4x4 or all-wheel drive on the SUVs.
So how many of those are 4x4?
I'm just going to tell you how many are not, because that'd be an easy number. So from what I can see, looks like only 3 are not 4x4. And again, that would be 2 chassis, that are your huge 5500s. And then there is a front-wheel drive SUV.
Okay, can we take the newest one that you have there and look at the sticker price, what you guys paid for it?
Yes, I already actually had that, so hold while I turn off my screen so I can share. So, share screen. Okay. So, because we keep talking about the cost, and, hold on, sharing. I actually just pulled up 2 leases of comparable vehicles. It says it's not sharing yet, so hold on. It's weird. Okay, I think you should be able to see the first screen I was on that shows you the 2 vehicles, or that shows you the vehicle. So I pulled up, this is the first vehicle that we acquired for you, 2021, which was the Chevy Silverado 1500. You can see what the delivery price is right here. So it's about $30,816. So again, that's based on the manufacturer's price, less any incentives. And then you guys are getting that invoice pricing.
And is that one 4-wheel drive?
That is a 4-wheel drive.
Is that a base model?
Yes, all your vehicles are gonna be work trucks. So here's your second vehicle, which is gonna be the same exact vehicle, work truck, 4x4, regular cab, 8-foot bed. It is $45,341. Between those 2 vehicles, which was a 2021 versus a 2025, you guys have a 47% increase on average between those years. So that's the biggest piece of why we talk about capitalizing on the equity, is because we're trying to help not only get you the vehicles, but find a way for you to lower those payments when possible. And again, these can all be pulled online too, just so you know that, like, again, with the transparency, this is all available to you.
And that one's the crew cab?
This is actually a regular cab.
Regular cab?
Mm-hmm. Your crew cab's gonna usually be a little bit more. If I had to guess, I would assume anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000. But keep in mind on the back end, you usually actually get a little bit more for the crew cab as well, because that's more of a retail type vehicle. There's not a lot of people who choose to get the regular cab when they're buying for themselves most of the time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I don't
What other questions do you have?
I don't have any at this time.
Well, I do always want feedback too. Is this kind of what you guys were looking for? Is this what you assumed our partnership was, or any feedback at all?
No, I appreciate the information. I didn't realize what was involved with the lease program, so it's an eye-opening experience for me. Thank you.
It is eye-opening.
I'll share if it's okay. Really appreciate working with Nate. All of us in our positions when this program, like managing and involved with this program, are pretty new to it compared to when it was first initiated. So it has been a learning process for a lot of folks towards it. We're constantly evaluating and analyzing to make sure it's still a cost-effective approach for the district when it comes to, you know, any type of other models might come into having personnel, maintaining fleet, things that come with it. So getting the data to the folks to be able to evaluate further, and if there are any follow-up questions, or if we would like to coordinate a follow-up from there, happy to do that as well. So just want to say thank you very much, Nate. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for the
Thank you,
info.
everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate
Have a
it.
good night. Bye.
Yeah, Nate made my job tonight very easy, so thank you, Nate.
Thank you, Sean. Next, we're moving on to this strategic priority number 9. Okay, before we get started on that, I just, I have a message, something that I've been thinking about, that I wanted to relay, in regards to the employees, and I'm just gonna read it. So this is a message regarding our commitment to you and the future of our district. I would like to begin by saying thank you. We recently concluded an employee survey regarding remote work and office hours with 65 participants sharing their perspectives. I recognize that the recent discussions, particularly at the last board meeting, have caused frustration and for some a feeling that your professional dedication has been questioned. I have read your comments and I want to be clear. I hear you and you do have value. I can't stress that enough. I don't think that I can stress that enough, but I appreciate the employees. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what goes on. And the survey results highlight several critical areas that I'm taking to heart. Your commitment to productivity. According to the survey, we see that 54% of those working remotely feel much more productive in that environment, and 59% of our total staff believe that remote and hybrid options do not diminish our high standards of service. Secondly, a need for trust. We acknowledge, this is from the survey, we acknowledge that only 38% of you felt fully comfortable providing honest feedback without fear of negative consequences. This is a metric that I'm committed to improving. Your voices are essential to the health of the district. The reality of our workspace, you've been incredibly candid about the current constraints at 63 East Spalding Avenue, from parking challenges to a lack of adequate break areas in restroom facilities. So I would like to suggest that our commitment during this transition, I understand that as we navigate the construction and transition to 79 East Spalding, a one-size-fits-all approach to office hours is neither practical or supportive of the work that you do. Therefore, I'm recommending the following. Ongoing evaluation. We will continue to evaluate our work arrangement policies throughout the construction process of our new administration space. Explore feasibility or flexibility. With 49% of the staff expressing interest in alternative schedules like a 4-10-hour work week, we'll look into how such models can support both your work-life balance and our operational coverage to produce the best value for our community. And to support our on-site roles, I remain dedicated to ensuring that those in roles that must be on-site, our personnel serving in the field every day, feel as valued and supported as those with flexible options. Serving our community together, the work you do for the residents of Provo West is hard. It's essential and often goes beyond the standard 8-to-5 schedule. Whether you're responding to an emergency or resolving an IT ticket or managing public funds, you're the backbone of this community. Our goal is to foster an environment where trust is the default and where we manage based on excellent results you deliver rather than mere physical presence. We are proud of this team and the dedication you show to our residents. And we are committed to working with you, not against you, as we build a stronger district together. I can't reiterate enough. The conversations could have strayed off of what was really the topic, and I want to reassure you that I value you. I'm sure the board does too. They value you. They value your work. They value the time that you put in. So with that, I'd like to ask the board if you guys would like to similarly commit and to send this out as a district-wide memo. So take that into consideration.
Myself, first of all, read a very lengthy email from one of our district employees the following day after our last meeting 2 weeks ago. Nowhere in our discussion were the employees described as being lazy. Nowhere in our discussion was their performance challenged. Okay? And that any decision that you make in your career is your decision. You have to own that. Okay? I like a strong employee base that's fair and consistent for all, so that way everyone, not a select few, everyone has the same fair and equal opportunity to adapt and have the same work conditions. The work conditions under which our employees were hired was a physical, in-person based employment, with my understanding. When they accepted that contract with the district, all we're asking you to do is maintain that. I don't care if it's 3 12-hour shifts and then one day with the 4 hours on. That gives you additional days off throughout the year. If it's 4 10s, that gives you 12 additional days off through the year. No, excuse me. It's 52 days off for the 3 12s. So you can figure the 4 10s is going to give you about 40 extra days off in the year without having to take any vacation or comp time or PTO. So I'm willing to work with our district manager within reason, but it's got to be fair and equitable in all departments.
Rod, do you have anything?
After a couple of weeks of reflection, I just want to think the conversation started out a little bit accusatory versus matter of fact type of situations. I gave my stance on where I stand on this. There were some accusations, several occasions where board members observed, including myself, where people weren't in their offices during times of business. I don't know how often it was for everybody, but those were the observations that we're seeing. That's a matter of fact. You go in, there's nobody in offices, or the offices are closed, or somewhere along those lines. Maybe doing a better investigation on the situation, presenting this to our district manager to see if he could have taken care of it beforehand. But this is where we are today. But that's a matter of fact. I myself, and I heard it from other board members, that they've gone in the offices, there weren't people in seats, several occasions, or the office was locked without any notice. There's also been accusations of calling staff lazy. If this is something that's been said, I haven't heard it myself personally, and if it has been implied, I apologize if it's come from me, and I don't agree with that. I think you guys are hard workers. I think you guys do a good job, but you know where I stand. I believe in what the position description says. Right now, as it stands, position descriptions that I'm aware of don't call for remote work. Calls for an office. I've said before, if you're willing to negotiate those terms, so I have no problems with that. Negotiate the terms that you're willing to work. Negotiate those terms. Go to Christian, talk to him about it. Those type of deals. But it's nothing personal. It's strictly business on my side. If you're a leader, you're in the office, you're leading, and you're doing the parts that you're seeing as well. That's where I stand. I agree with Bill. I think we could work with you better. I think it was a little heated the last time we talked, but I stand where I still say you should be in the office until you negotiate something different. That's where I stand.
I think there's two things in our agenda that are, I guess, similar. Most of my comments regarding the remote work are saved for item J5. This here is strategic priority number 9. I did my one-on-one with Christian. I read through everybody's comments on the survey. Appreciate the feedback. Appreciate the specific name mentions of me in particular, the ones that people shared their thoughts on my performance, I suppose. So I appreciate that. That's all the comments I have, I think, on this one, at least for now, but I don't know how much more we're gonna go into this. We did this a little differently by starting with the board.
Yeah, if it's okay to share. So this topic, talking about, there's actually 2 surveys and conversations, but they are somewhat linked in, I think, some of the feedback and some of the approach, because when we get to, I think you said item J5, to that, one of the core items that we identified from this conversation is that we talked about remote work as something that the board can evaluate as policy, and I think there's, absolutely appropriate way to do that and approach it and see whether it's something that maintains as is adjusted to be more consistent if there are concerns about it, or remove it entirely. And I think that's a fair conversation to have, but the underlying issue that came from how it was approached is part of why it's tied to this conversation and some of the feedback when it came to the board survey, the employees providing the feedback to the board happened and predated the last board meeting. So I'll share, I appreciate when this first survey came up, which was the 10 or so approved questions of the board, to ask the employees feedback on the strategic plan, policy, recognizing staff roles, or any of the questions came from there. I did offer it, I think, on March 10th to all the board, just ahead of this meeting, that way there was an opportunity to reflect, review, consider it, and then I offered, if you would like to sit down with me one-on-one to discuss and get feedback, explore more of the specific ones, offered that ahead of it. I did have 3 board members take me up on that, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And I'll share that one of those was a conversation with Bill. Sorry, President Pierce.
That's fine.
And I really appreciate having the conversation, because while talking about that, it came up how the 2 are somewhat connected. You get to see one survey predating the March 9th meeting, where there is feedback on those questions asked, and there were specific things called out. And I will dive more into it in the second portion. But if you compare it to the second survey, where it was asking about remote work, and look at those open comments, you can see what the issue was they were talking about in the first one about trust and concerns, and just get inflamed and larger in the second one, because I don't think that anybody took that conversation from remote work as we're just evaluating policy, we're looking at what's best for the community and the productivity. That may have been the intent of having that conversation, but the feedback we've gotten since was that it felt like it was accusatory, that it was coming from a place of distrust, that employees were implied to be, because of other experiences with government, lazy, or that they were time thieves, or anything that came from that March 9th conversation. And so that was the feedback we have been getting for essentially since March 9th, and been dealing with to that point. So that's why they're connected. I appreciate the conversation, because I think leading with that will help both this conversation for the survey and the next part. So hopefully that answered your question. I'm happy to take it from there.
Yeah.
For
No, I just want to say that, the conversation probably, most likely, and it did get off topic. But I really want to express a sincere feeling that I was not trying to attack employees. It was not trying to slight employees in their work ethics. For me, yes, I have been through the building several times and seen empty office spaces, and it did raise questions to me, but in talking to Christian, which I should have done previously, some things have come to light. That doesn't mean that I have changed my ideas about remote working, but I do understand some of the things that were going on. I'll own that. That's on me. So, but you guys do a good job. I mean, we're getting awards. The finance department's getting an award. The wastewater department's getting an award. You know, we do have diligent workers that work hard, and I'm appreciative of that. So let's keep it. I like this.
Oh, yeah.
Be curious, not judgmental. That should be something that we all kind of keep in mind all the time. Sometimes it's hard, but anyway. I appreciate Christian taking the time to talk to me, and we'll do better. I think we can.
I do want to make one more comment. In regards to the examples of waste, fraud, and abuse that I had experienced, those are just my experiences. No one in the district was called out by name, by position, by title, or department. Okay? It's not a reflection upon your work performance. I think y'all's work that y'all put out is great. Okay? And maybe I should have said that in the same discussion. But I didn't. So if anybody feels like they were slighted or insulted, I'm sorry. But when it comes to tough decisions and discussions in regards to making sure that our office hours are maintained, our employees are at work, okay, no one is following you. No one is following you. I was merely going to the Tea Palace to pick up a 4:30 Asian food order that my wife put in, and noticed that there was no POVs at 63 Spalding and 4 government vehicles. Coincidence. If I'd never rolled up in there and walked through the building and found it empty and no sign posted on the 3 entryways that are available to the public explaining why the office closure was there, we wouldn't be having this discussion today or 2 weeks ago. So when it comes to establishing public trust, our constituents who elected us to be on this board, who pay your salaries, want us to maintain our office hours. And if we can't maintain that, there should be a significant explanation that's posted publicly and on each entryway of every building that is currently closed.
We've covered that, Greg.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Go ahead, Christian.
Sure. So I appreciate the opportunity to discuss this. I actually wanted to start with, I appreciate this is the first survey that I know of that has been done for the employees on the board. So first, I just want to say thank you for your willingness and openness to get some of that feedback. There's going to be 2 other parts of this conversation. One of them, first part is just talking about the survey, just in general, kind of giving some of the highlights for it. The second one, had a conversation with Director Pasternak about one of the perceptions, which is how is the organizational chart in reality versus how does it look in perception for some, and then how a potential alternative of just how to view it could look. And then the third part is during some of the conversations early when we were talking about this survey, and I credit President Vickers for this, is when thinking about what was employee feedback, never experimented, though we have community roundtables with employee roundtables with the board to be able to discuss and get some feedback towards it. And I'll provide some recommendations after seeing some of this and thoughts on how to approach that. So this first survey that came was with the 10 questions approved by the board. They asked everything from the strategic plan, how well people align with the strategic plan, or how it aligns with the district, all the way to individual or as a collective, the board's understanding of policy, their approach to long-term strategic vision, and just get an assessment of that. And I'll just share, the overview and the findings. I do want to then open up for the board to discuss the survey if there's any additional comments, but if we did cover them, we may be good. But just for the public's awareness and to remind everybody, this was a survey conducted from February 19th to March 1st of this year. The district conducted an anonymous survey of its employees, of which 55 responded to gauge the effectiveness of the board's role in governance. While the data shows strong support for the district's strategic plan, a 64% agreement, also reveals a critical disconnect between the board's current actions and the staff's operational needs. And some of those key quantitative findings, recognizing at that time, 82% of staff disagreed that the board's focus on broad level strategies, perceiving instead an absorption in daily operational details. A public image where 89% of respondents felt board actions don't reflect positively on the organization or its employees in the community. Culture and support, another 89% of staff do not feel the board demonstrated that they value the professional expertise or employee well-being. And then policy clarity, 71% of employees do not believe that the board fully understands all the policies and resolutions presented prior to approval. Now, I do want to be clear. These are perceptions of staff who are watching sometimes board meetings, being able to interact at some level or very little level and only be able to see from another angle, which might be the live stream. So understand that these are their perceptions. I will always articulate that if you're, especially in public service, you're probably comfortable with perceptions not always matching what you feel might be the reality. But it is important that we address that. If there is somebody who has a perception of that, just like somebody might have a perception of how government operates in general, it's our jobs as leaders in the district, whether employed, whether elected, to try and make sure that we make reality. So if you're hearing, there's a self-reflection guide with this, if you're feeling like any of these comments, any of this data is challenging and you feel like it's not correct, then let's work together to try and make sure that the reality becomes reality. But I think it is important to understand the perception because that helps us address what maybe others are seeing. I won't go into too many more details for it, but I did want to talk about a little bit of the recommended action plan, just talking about some of that feedback that we got. One of those is trying to look at it as the boundaries of what that district manager and board of directors expectations guidance documents showed, which is a lot of the board's responsibility and a lot of our collective responsibility, including the executive management group, is looking at the policy. For instance, the remote work. That's fair. That is absolutely fair to look at the policy and see, is this something that's best serving the community based on how it's implemented? Is it through the district consistently applied? That's a fair looking at the policy. Oftentimes when it comes to operations, how things are done, there's a balance. In most cases, we hire employees all throughout the district to provide expertise and value to performing the duties that we assign them, and we hold them accountable if they don't. There is absolutely a healthy amount of skepticism that can happen to make sure that as we approach and hearing how we're doing something, a question come up, and as President Vickers said, addressing it as being curious, not judgmental. Asking those questions to understand better, and that way, if there is a discrepancy or a disagreement, we can then elevate it. I will share also, we do have the board retreat in April 10th, which is going to be facilitated, and I think it might help as well as a professional development tool for all of us, because it does include us as well. Meeting professionalism, adopt a praise in public, criticize in private standard. We kind of, as I appreciate President Vickers, your conversation today, or our conversation today, and what you said there. There's, I don't know if you have seen a lot of pages in your packets sometimes. Those packets can be pretty dense. If there are questions of that, we're here to help. If you ask us, hey, send it ahead of time saying, these are some questions I had, or knowing an agenda item is coming and you would like to sit down to understand more, we're happy to facilitate that. So asking those questions ahead of time prior to the public meeting can help ensure that way, ensure that when we get to the public meeting, what we're discussing is actionable, objective, informed. Still be opinions, of course, but it helps us meet those expectations so that everybody at the meeting can enjoy an informed discussion that can hopefully help actually produce action for whatever the board decides. This kind of tied into it, the trust building initiatives. Shift from a stance of suspicion to one of healthy skepticism that respects the professional research and expertise staff provides on budgeted items, recognizing unintentional mistakes or errors as opportunities for growth first, handle demonstrable patterns of failure privately and with proper documentation. This goes both ways. So just like if there's a concern and a healthy skepticism on a board member's part of whether it's a staff program, a staff member, that's fair. And being able to evaluate that and understand the role and ask the questions so that myself or our team can follow up if there is personal corrective action is absolutely fair. At the same time, recognizing that if there isn't, if it's a genuine mistake, and that goes both ways again, if we recognize that there's something that comes from a board meeting where it feels like what was said is not truly what was meant, having grace and being able to understand that we can move forward together as long as we address what those misconceptions might have been, which I think we're doing an admirable job tonight. I want to appreciate everybody who's involved with that. And the last one, just talking about the district manager and the board, there is some overlap, and I think I would argue even against the isolated concept. It's not two arms trying to fight against each other to make the body work. I'll talk a little bit about it in the next section. There is a level of strategic value that I think my position provides as chief executive officer. And I think for each of your backgrounds, there's a perspective that maybe I lack or our team may lack because of where you come from and what you may add to the conversation. So I don't want to say that those are two always separate roles, but I think respecting those roles as the primary responsibilities of it can help make sure that we're doing due justice when it comes to the appropriate approach towards it. That's the general section of this first summary. I won't be going over any more details unless asked for the entire packet. There's additional information for specific data, and you were provided the comments as well. So I'll stop there before moving into the next part to see if there's any questions or feedback. I try to be slow, but also tough ground.
Looks like we've got a big
No,
fat F.
I don't have any questions. I had a pretty.
I said it looks like we've got a big fat F from the staff.
Yeah. You can't
You don't have
sugarcoat
to.
it.
You don't have to respond.
That's fair.
It wasn't a question. It's an observation.
I will respect your observation. Okay, so okay to move this. Oh, go ahead.
Just one thing real quick, I think we gotta get into the habit, I know we're the board members, you know, we carry the purse and the torch, so to speak, for the lack of better terminology. I think we need to get in the habit to actually, contacting Christian better when we see something instead of just jumping to conclusions. I did that right at the get-go when I saw and observed Metro trucks driving on the the path. Our trucks were driving on the path, and I presented that to him. Since then, I haven't seen it. Doesn't mean it's not happening, but I have not seen it since then. I presented him the information, and what's that?
Still happening.
If it is, well,
It's a necessity. Carol explained it to me.
Oh, it is? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I just didn't think the trail was, we have golf carts and stuff. This is probably a little better to drive with, but I'm just saying, I did present it. I hadn't seen it since, but if it's still going, then either way, I just don't think it, I don't know if he said anything, but I hadn't seen it since. But since somebody else has, apparently, but I haven't.
I asked Carol about 3 weeks ago, because I saw the same thing, and she says, well, we got to service all of the paths, pick up trash.
Right.
Replace bags at poop stations, dog
Right.
poop stations and stuff, and collect all that. And you can't get it done in a smaller vehicle, because by the time you get all the trash and everything, that truck's full.
So yeah, I sure appreciate the comment. I do remember that conversation, and I remember iterating, or in part of it, remembering that most times we do keep vehicles off of it. My recollection of that time was that there are certain examples, you actually articulated probably better than I was going to, of where we do utilize it on the trails, but we try to make sure that we are not doing it at a way that either risks the trails or risks anybody who's using them.
Right.
So I did appreciate it. You came out and asked.
Right. I was just saying, maybe we got to get smaller vehicles that can do the same kind of job. So I just don't think it's, they're meant for the utility vehicles. Anyway, I digress. I'm just saying, I think we should be better at approaching Christians.
We should, and we talked about that. You know what happens when you assume, and I've known that for a long time, but that's what happens.
I'll share, I've enjoyed a lot of conversations with President Vickers. Sometimes we have not agreed on things, which is okay. But I value that he has taken time oftentimes to understand, and then after we formed opinions, or after we've been able to understand each other's opinions, we can at least agree to disagree if there is something, and understand where the responsibilities lie.
And he can usually, when you approach him, he can usually come up with an answer. Generally, it's a 21-page memo, but he does a good job.
That's fair.
Right. So, but yeah, he's a resourceful guy.
Second part of this, and I hope it's okay to share, that this conversation came as Director Pasnick and I were having that 101 after the survey. So, bringing everybody's attention towards it, what you're seeing there is 3 models of leadership and service when it comes to how the organization could be structured. On the left is existing, and it is a very simplified version. It's a traditional version. It's what is currently in place at the district. You would see it in our budget book, where the citizens are at the top. They obviously elect the board. The board is responsible for the overall operation of the district. They hire district manager. There's sometimes other models, but generally the leadership of the district who can then hire up until a point that there are then staff who provide service to the community. And that's a traditional model of leadership. You see it on almost every chain of command. That's the way typically it is run. The perceived one, this is where I wanted to focus, and I think some of the conversation here is already eroding some of this as a concern, but it's something we always have to be attentive towards. It's that the citizens elect the board, and the organization of the leadership and the staff are some separate entity that need to be checked, balanced, and held accountable. In the first model, there is accountability. There are checks and balances that exist. The second model, what's showing is that separation where it doesn't feel like everybody's on the same team. And sometimes that can be a question of, I can think empathize on a board member. You're elected by the public. You obviously serve the public. On our side, we are hired whether by the district manager or the board, and we're here also to serve the public. And when it feels like there's an us versus them, or that starts distancing, creating dissonance, the concern about it is that it creates that us versus them mentality. But that's not, I think, what anybody is really intending to do. And I think we all recognize that we're here to serve the community, whether you're an elected official who just came onto your first term, whether you're a long-term employee who's been here 33, 4 years. You're somebody who provides service to this community, and whether that is at the elected official role or the staff role, your service is valued. Why I put the last one, the proposed, isn't to demonstrate any difference in how the actual authority goes. And I appreciate President Vickers and I talked a little bit about it. This isn't creating a model that changes that overall the board's responsible, or that if I'm the district manager hiring certain employees that they aren't still accountable and report to me. But it is the servant leadership model, which is citizens are still at the top. The community is overall what we are all here to serve, but we're recognizing that the folks who are providing that service are the people on the front lines. They're the ones who respond to incidents, whether it's emergency services. They're the ones who respond to water breaks, or if a concern comes up about somebody's bill being paid, or it's one where there's a covenant enforcement violation and we have folks who go out there and serve the community. That's the highest level of who the citizens on the average experience. If they're experiencing somebody from the community, those are the people who need the resources and support to be able to do the job that they do. And where that comes into then the next step of leadership is, our first goal is to make sure that the staff and the overall organization has the resources, tools, equipment, and people to do the job to provide that service to the citizens. And that the board is the foundation of the policy, the structure, and the force that helps create what all that looks like as far as the service to provide to the community. This is a model that is sometimes used, whether military or whether other organizations, that shows a demonstration that you're putting the folks who provide the service first. It is a intellectual, or I guess philosophical model towards it. It doesn't change the actual delegation of authority or anything about how it works, but it changes how the dynamic and the mindset works when it comes to why we're here and how we're doing. Because if it's fair to say, most of us do not in this room respond to the incident that happens or provides the service at somebody's parks. But we are responsible to making sure that the people in our charge have the tools and equipment to be able to do that job. So it's a proposed model. I don't know, Dr. Pasnick, if you'd like to share, but I
like it. I
appreciate
think it should be on that wall over there as a reminder. That's all. The servant leadership model.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it's a good reminder.
But yeah, I just want to propose it as far as that. If it's something that the board would be pleased with, we can adopt more formal ways to do it, whether it's on the board or if it's an informal tool to just help remind us of how we're here and how we apply our service. I'm happy to do that as well. If there's a preference to keeping the existing model or just talking about why the perception might exist, happy to facilitate the conversation too.
So, the one thing that struck me is what the citizens perceive as well. Because I've gotten emails about certain people saying, hey, go talk to this person from the staff about this certain situation. And then the email is like, I don't want to talk to the staff. I elected the board member to be the person to talk to, but yet they don't come in and talk to us. So
Gotcha.
there's an interesting dynamic there, to say the least. But the perception, making sure that the perception is seen by the citizens as the board not taking a step back, so to speak, or that kind of thing, because does that make sense?
I think so.
Because, again, it goes back to some of these emails that I've read, and this person and these people are talking about they don't want to talk to staff because they're not elected official.
Gotcha. I think that's something, I think I understand the perception for it. We don't want to remove the board for being responsible, like it says in the bylaws. One of the primary responsibilities, if not the primary responsibility of the board, is to respond to the needs of the constituents or the district. I don't think we want to avoid that, so I don't know. I would hope that being able to, whether it's an asterisk, whether it's stating it within a similar proposal, that understand that that still exists and that expectation of who they elected to serve them still exists too.
Right.
And be able to challenge that perception.
That was my only question, because when I first saw it, I was like, how, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see it, and but I understand the concept. It's just, I don't want to talk too much about my experience with that stuff, but it's a military type of deal where you have the battalion commander and the company commanders are out there doing their thing, and then when the battalion commander needs to get involved, he does.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. Anyway, yeah, so just wanted to be a little where I stood on that. That's the only thing I hesitate on it about.
Gotcha.
With the citizens the citizens perceiving this as the board is, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think we can narrate it, create a narrative with it
Right.
that helps correct that.
I think that the perceived could be representative of a dysfunctional family, and I think we probably have that right now in the organization, with us, and the leadership and the staff. But I think that can be, I think you can do servant leadership model and take traditional and make that the servant leadership model. The board should be at where it's at under the citizens, but it should be there to make sure that the leadership and staff and the body's successful. Okay, and that's the servant part of it. I agree, and I had mentioned that to you, that I didn't, the way our political system is, the way everything is designed is that the people elect representatives to represent them and do run their entity. So I would prefer to keep that as an existing model, but change it to servant leadership on the left.
Okay.
That'd be my suggestion.
I looked over all this 3 times over. I agree with Bill. It should be the servant leadership model, but use the existing format. Citizens Board, leadership and staff. I am a firm believer that when your leadership is more accessible and forthcoming, we need to develop a better relationship than what we have as board members with our leadership. And that's not just with the district manager. That's with all the other department leaders. I think the existing model is fine, but I think it should be the servant leadership model name on that. I agree with Bill on that. The perceived, he gave a good description. What was that?
Dysfunctional family.
Dysfunctional family. Yeah. Yeah. There is no perfect family. Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. We don't have a perfect government. So we're gonna have to do better. We're gonna have to humble ourselves and put a little bit more effort into the way we communicate and maintain respect in our conversation.
And that's well said.
I think if it's pleasure of the board, update the left one, do that, and probably create a narration that helps demonstrate what that resource and that provision is for the staff, if that's the preference.
One of the other things the citizens got to be aware of too is the board changes all the time. Staff usually stays around for a while. They're almost the continuity. I mean, we've got another election coming up here next year, and 3 of us are still in our infancy phase, so to speak. And depending on what the outcomes of that, we've got to think of that situation where we could possibly have 2 new board members. It's an ebb and flow of dynamics when it comes to the board. And I would highly encourage the citizens to talk to the staff when asked to do so, or I'll talk to the staff or talk to Christian if questions are asked to me. That's usually where I'm going to get it, because I'm still learning a lot. When you get elected, you don't know all the information until you sit in the seat, and then even then, you're not going to know all the information. You're doing your best to keep up with the things that are past, present, and future. All the past stuff that comes back to haunt you, and all the present stuff that we're discussing now, and all the future stuff that we got to worry about later, right? So those are one of the things I highly encourage the citizens to develop relationships with the staff as well, because more often than not, the staff is going to be the continuity within the community and the district. So that's just one of those things I wanted to kind of get out there. Coming into things, I'm learning, I'm going. I mean, I think this is number 18 since I've been here. 18 meetings. That's it in a year. 24 in a year technically. There's a lot to learn and a little time to do it.
I think, just one last comment, I think that for most of those reasons you outlined, and I don't need to win this argument here, but I'm just saying, I think that for those reasons that you just outlined, I think that's why the proposed one is the best, because frankly, we could disappear off of that and the district would still function. If the staff disappears off of that, we're screwed. So, our job is to, as the ultimate leadership, is to remove obstacles, not install obstacles. And so I think that, that last model is that's where it's at. I mean, the staff is the most important thing, because they are the ones that are dealing with the citizens day to day, 40 hours a week. A lot of positions are overtime. I mean, these people, even if they may not even be residents, some of them, but frankly, they're here more than we are. They know the people of Pueblo West more than we do. I would almost guarantee it, because they're dealing with the citizens more than we are in a lot of cases.
Well, that first model doesn't take that away.
I think it's, to Christian's point of the purpose of it, it's not a authoritative guide. It's a philosophical one. I think it's just a good reminder to, as leaders, to be the most humble person in the room, to serve your not only your constituents, but the people who are serving your constituents. And that's just the way I look at it, I guess.
It's a pleasure of the board.
Again,
I don't disagree with anything that you said, except perception. Like I said, the way the political body has worked and is working and will work has been under that layout. The board can do a better job of being a servant, but I think, I just like that perception better. But
I personally don't have on either one of these. I just want to make sure that the perception is, or however we decide to spell it out, either one is good with me. The middle one is not. Obviously, I don't like that. But servant leadership model is definitely what we need to be presenting to the citizens and the staff. However you line that up, that's neither here nor there for me. I'm gonna try to do my best to present that, either way it's laid out.
I'd say go with the existing and then tag it the servant leadership model.
Can do. All right, thank you for that portion of it. The last portion, I promise, pretty quick, is that we did talk about doing employee roundtables. I was going to offer, I think you have heard a lot of feedback already. I think some of that is something that already is being challenged tonight to make sure that we're progressing, absorbing and making sure that we acknowledge what the feedback was. I would make the recommendation, we have the board retreat next month, and that it might be more suitable and might be better suited to have that employee roundtable idea tabled for 3 to 6 months, give time to be able to evaluate after the board retreat, after some of the conversations, and see where that check-in is after that. So that's what I was going to recommend tonight, but at the pleasure of the board.
do you have a specific date in mind for next month?
The only thing that I was going to check in is to see what the board retreat has as far as deliverables, because I think it would talk about some things as far as, hey, this is how we'll recommend you check in. If we look at it for now, it probably sometime between June to September for that 3 to 6 month check-in.
Yeah, so what are you looking for?
At this time, just an okay to say, hey, we'll revisit the employee roundtables.
Oh, yeah.
After the board retreat and pick some dates for it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm open to that.
Okay. Any disagreement with that? Okay. I think that concludes my item, so hopefully that was easier than reading 22 pages. And I appreciate the time and the conversation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christian.
Thank you.
Discussion items? Sale of district property to Westover Homes by Mr. Marcos Reyes, our economic support specialist.
Good evening, President Vickers, esteemed board. Before you, as a discussion item, we previously had Westover Homes submit an offer for $20,000. The board submitted a counter offer for $40,000. Westover has resubmitted another counter offer for $30,000. At this time, staff recommends moving this discussion item into an action item and approving a resolution authorizing the sale of property to Westover Homes LLC. Just a point of order, we also did put into the resolution that they would have to do the infrastructure improvements as a part of this.
Board? Mr. Pasternak.
I still think it's probably still low, which is why I'm working on bringing an agenda item to sell all the land that we have. But I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to sell it for that on this one, and then consider getting out of the real estate business in the future.
Okay, so, Marcos, this has 2 homes, or 2 lots, correct?
Correct.
And no, is there a clause in there for additional purchases at the same price?
No, there is not, so
All right.
the next ones would actually be able to be
Renegotiated, okay.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last time, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the sale to Westover Homes.
Second.
Motion on the table to approve the sale of district property to Westover Homes. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Next is Ms. Carol Cosby, resolution to amend the previously amended Civic Center Trail Phase 1.
Good evening, President Vickers, members of the board, Carol Cosby, Director of Parks and Recreation. This is a resolution to amend the previously amended Civic Center Trail Phase 1. Construction is progressing well. We're almost done, actually. As we go through this project, it's a little different than we do all our other trails, because this project is at Civic Center Park. So we have a lot of people in and out of that park all the time. So we've done it in sections. Instead of just, if you've seen Purcell Trail, we cleared the whole trail, then we go back, lay all the gravel, then we go back and we lay all the asphalt. That's not what's happening at this park, just because of the usage at this park and the playground, a little different. So as we do this in sections, we're encountering more things as we go along. So at the February 23rd meeting, I came to the board to request an amendment to the original agreement for $59,000. And when I did that, we talked about, at that time we were at the playground area where we had to relocate sprinklers and ADA improvements and minor concrete because we had a bike rack and things in the way. So we're past that now. And so instead of coming back to the board every time we hit a section and we might not have enough money to do it, tonight I'm bringing to you an amended resolution to spend up to $164,078.49, which is the remaining part of the construction part of this project. Just so the board, just as so you remember, this is 100% funded. We pay up front, but we get reimbursed once it is down. We have no match to this project. Like I said, we're almost done. However, the parking lot into the old tennis courts is part of this, and putting something across that pavement area. That pavement has sunk a little bit, and our concern is when we hit that part and start pulling things out, we're gonna encounter like a soft spot where it's gonna cost a little bit more money. So instead of coming back again at the next board meeting for additional funds, we have a resolution attached to spend up to the 164 if needed. And staff requests the board move this to an action item for that approval as we move forward with this project. Are there any questions?
I'm good with it. I just have a comment. I was there, I have little kids and I go to that park, decent fair amount. I noticed that once that sidewalk was in, the scooters and the bikes for the bigger kids are out.
We have noticed
And
that
they
as
are
well,
flying
and we will
right
be
next to
putting
where all the
signage
little,
up.
where little, I was thinking maybe like a speed bump or something.
Okay, on the
Ju-
trail
Just an
itself.
idea, yeah.
Mhm.
Just an idea. I don't know if that's like not kosher for ADA purposes or
I don't know, would that be a
what
trip
have you.
hazard?
Yeah.
I
don't know,
would
but
I would have to check with that, but.
maybe at the
Okay.
very least signs. I just happened to go there once recently and they were ripping through there now that they have that.
Yeah, we've
giant
noticed that
sidewalk,
as well,
the
and
long
it has
sidewalk.
been, staff has brought that to my attention, and we were working on signs to put
Because there's a
up.
lot of little kids
You're right,
that are, and then their parents are sitting right at the,
the base of the playground.
yeah, and those benches are right by the sidewalk, so I could see where that could be a disaster. That's all.
Sure, I can check into that for sure.
That's all. But otherwise, yeah, why not? Closest thing to free money.
And again, we have to remember that at the last board meeting, I presented a map, and I think I might have it in my packet, but I'm not sure. It has to be within those, right there. It has to be within those yellow limits in order to spend the funds.
To spend the funds.
Yes, so, we definitely are within those limits, and, you know,
Oh, so you'll run,
we're making it look, it's really good, it's been heavily used, but again, as we put things in, we see things, and things have to change as we move along.
so you talking about running that sidewalk just around that circle across the driveway there? Is that?
The
path.
sidewalk Can
What are
you-
you talking about crossing the parking lot?
Right there where you go down into the parking lot, we're actually
Oh.
tearing out asphalt.
Oh, okay, the
The
big.
path has to, yes, from the yellow, right there where you go into,
Uh-huh.
from that yellow up to the road is
Yeah.
all gonna be pavement.
Okay. Went to my, yeah, I'm okay with it.
And as usual, you come under budget a lot of times, so.
Well, we are lucky on this project. I'm just excited we were able to do a few more things at this park. And just to let you know, we'll be putting it out to the public here shortly. We've been coordinating with the playground people because we do have to replace a slide that is in our budget. And that will be done, they were hoping the week of the 30th or the first week of April. And then at that last board meeting when we amended, they were gonna, within this agreement, they're gonna put down the surfacing on the playground. So that playground's gonna be down, probably for 5 days. So we will notify the public far enough in advance, and we will also fence in the area.
And that yellow line didn't go into the splash park at all, did it?
No.
No. So how's that gonna?
There's nothing to do with the splash park.
Okay.
It's a slide that has to be replaced because it's cracked.
Oh,
But it's under warranty,
Oh.
the slide is, but we have to retrofit it because it's so old.
oh, okay.
It's actually the playground surfacing where we had sprinkler,
Oh, okay.
that's what's being replaced.
All right. I make a motion to approve the resolution. I got it right here. Approving the amendment to the construction of the Civic Center Park Trail Phase 1 MTF M087-015, and in parentheses, 26431 awarded to Schistler Incorporated. To
Second.
approve.
Second. Okay, I have a motion to approve the amendment to the construction of the Civic Center Trail Phase 1. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, Carol.
You're welcome. I'm up again on the next
Oh,
one.
the Ascenza.
Yeah, the
Resol-
Ascenza.
Resolution to amend the
Yeah, I
professional
got
service
that right here
agreement.
too.
So, just a little summary on this project. Oh, again, Carol Cosby, Director of Parks and Rec. The committee was formed to guide the development of the new indoor pool concept. We meet every 3 weeks to review progress and provide direction. As the project has advanced, the schematic design phase is ready to move forward as well. So in the original agreement with the Senza, it was just for the building itself. And so at that time, we informed the board would be back to bring an amended resolution for traffic engineering, survey engineer, civil engineer, and landscape architect. So before you tonight is an amended resolution again, with that included. All the documentation is provided to the board. And our recommendation is to proceed with the agreement. And if there are no concerns, we request that this be moved to a action item for approval as well. Are there any questions?
And Sean is, we've given him kind of the direction of where we'd like to see it happen with the light at Aspen Skiway?
Yes.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right,
And they're coordinating with our project team as well.
okay, good.
Mm-hmm. And we did have to do that traffic study, that we will have to do some traffic study.
Okay. Board?
I make a motion to approve the resolution that is amended to the original agreement with Astenza Architect for the design of the indoor pool. Originally, it was gonna be $535,830, but with the extra services and engineering and traffic study and stuff, comes to $133,164.68, for a total of $668,994.68 to continue the contract with Estenza Architect.
And thank you for providing those numbers. I have those and I should have provided those.
Second.
Apologize for that.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the agreement with the Senza Architects for the design of the indoor pool with the amendment of $133,164.68 for a total of $668,994.68. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Next is the Records Management Project presented by Brianne Magnoni. And, I'm sorry, and Katrina Peters,
Thank you, Bill.
Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you, President.
I didn't read far enough, sorry.
I'm gonna specifically move the microphone closer to me because I've already received feedback from Mr. Mahaney at home that can't hear us, so make sure all the microphones are on. Katrina Peter, Chief Administrative Officer. We are here to talk about the records management project that we are working on this year. And I'm gonna give a little bit of historical perspective, and then Bree is gonna jump in to provide an update on where we're at with it. But historically, we had a lot of paper records that were being stored at our storage facilities or at various, like in the department locations. We made a comprehensive effort to try to address that in around 2022, 2023, and that was led by our district clerk at the time, Brandy Blankenship. She did a solicit for bid and had a company come in, and basically they did a really large purge of all those documents. We had a lot of them that were past the records retention schedule, and so we were able to shred those documents, and then that company was able to organize and label the remaining boxes so that way we knew what department they came from and what type of records they were. But that was really just phase one. There are still a lot of paper records in the district that need to be addressed. And so we worked with our teams throughout 2025 to kind of come up with a better action plan to ensure that we are moving past paper records and moving into digital storage, especially when you consider like core requests, easy accessibility to those records. And so fast forward to 2025, recognizing that need, we looked at a number of different options, and I'll let you jump in here in a second, but I do want to talk about RMMI. Before Bree came on board, we had, the utilities department had purchased a platform called RMMI, and that was where we stored a lot of the records. And the utilities department was in the process of updating all of their files, loading them in, but also we recognized that it was gonna take years for us to catch up with just staff manually scanning them in. And so we recognized district-wide that we needed to have something that was compatible across all departments. That way we had hopefully one storage, digital storage place for all of our files. And RMMI seemed like a good option since we already had purchased the platform. So that's kind of where I handed it off to Bree when she came into her position.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Bree Mignoni, District Clerk. So as Katrina stated, once I came on board, I was provided and given the opportunity to take on the records management project. And what we ended up doing is I looked at RMMI, since we already purchased the platform for the utilities department and through it, it made perfect sense that we're not gonna have to pay for that digital platform. We're just going to have to pay for the extra storage space and then budget across the district through each department of what that would look like as far as breaking up the documents, storing them, and then having them electronic. And that would make my job a whole lot easier when it comes to core requests, because as of right now, we have 2 storage containers, or 3 storage containers that we're paying for on a monthly basis. By doing this, we'd be able to downsize to possibly 2 right away by the end of the year. We wouldn't be paying those extra storage fees. We'd be able to get rid of some of the extra space that we have, big filing cabinets full of documents that have been there since the district began. Get those out of there, because some of those are probably past the date that can be stored anyway. And then those that can be stored, we'd like to have those electronics so that people can easily access them, especially for people in the billing department, right? There's people that might come back later down the road, customers wanting bills from back date. They don't have to go into files and find them. Instead, they're electronic and you can move forward. So what I decided to do is look at how much is the utilities department currently paying somebody to do this, right? Are they paying somebody to help get the records uploaded? How far is it taking? They were only 35% complete and had years worth of documents that are still gonna have to be going. And they had been doing it for 3 years already. That was just one department. We need the entire district taken care of. We have every single department that has files that need to be uploaded. So then we looked at, let's go ahead and look into 3 different companies and get an invoice or estimate from each one of them. How much it would cost to be able to do this. What I ended up finding is that 2 of the 3 companies, we're gonna have to take our documents out of state, which I didn't particularly like, because then there's confidentiality and things of that sort. And then also, I wouldn't have those documents easily accessible, and then we'd have to look at the utilities department, then with all the work they've already done, transfer them to a whole new network, whole new platform. Is it gonna be accessible and as easy as RMMI has already proven to be? So in that conversation, I looked at, okay, what is the estimate for RMMI? Can we sole source it? And we were told that because we already had purchased that program and the platform, it seems like a good option. And so we budgeted for each department into the 2026 budget a certain amount that each department would need to do. This has been approved as part of the budget for that amount, but we wanted to come to the board and ask and recommend that we continue with the sole source option with RMMI to move forward, just because we won't have to pay for a digital platform with another company moving forward. We already own it. We're just going to pay for the storage space, and we've already budgeted based off that estimate per department. It just makes the most sense, and this way it's easily accessible for everybody to get online, and it'll help me as far as core requests moving forward. But I would like to get most of this project complete by the end of 2026, and hopefully get rid of at least 2 storage units, and then free up space in some of the departments as well.
So the main concern, and as Bree pointed out, the main concern and why we're bringing it to the board's attention is ultimately we want to let the board decide whether or not we should sole source or go out to competitive bid. I think there are very valid positives for sole sourcing, but also understanding that there may be options that are valuable for cheaper. But when we looked at all the different variables with it, with already having the platform purchase, with already having the majority of our utilities department records on file through that digital platform, it just made sense to have one platform that would work across all the district and make it easily accessible for those core requests. We did start in 2025 scanning some records from operational support. But again, it was slow moving because we were having individual staff members do this. Going through one of these companies will allow them to take all those files, scan it in, and then code it basically so it's easily found through the data management system. So ultimately, that's what we're here for, is we're just seeking guidance from the board. I think when we had conversations with finance, we just wanted to make sure that we were in compliance with our procurement policy. And yes, we can sole source it, but there are potentials for both sides of pros and cons. And so ultimately, we just wanted to bring it to the board's attention to decide.
So the RMMI that's the one that already has the water department 35% complete?
Yeah.
Okay.
It started off way less than 35%. So when they bought the platform and they had all these paper documents, they had an employee that was working on scanning individually. And it was just such a slow-moving process. And I mean, that employee was incredible, but there's just no way for them to catch up. And so after several years, only being at 35% completion, we just realized that it was the impact and I guess just being fiscally responsible. It just wasn't making sense to continue to do it that route when we could potentially budget it, get it done all in 1 year, and then not incur the costs year over year.
So you're talking about not going with RMMI?
No, I am mentioning going with RMMI, but when we were looking at it originally, we had a staff member that was doing it internally, and the cost
as
of
opposed to
paying
just giving them, or
Yeah.
What do we do? Just mail all the stuff to them or something?
So they actually come in and they
Oh, okay.
actually go through the documents, they box
Okay.
it up for
'Cause I
you,
was
they
wondering.
take it,
Okay.
and they're here in Colorado, so it makes it nicer and it's not crossing state lines. They split it out. They look at, okay, this meets retention policy, this doesn't, we can
Okay.
shred this, we need that. And with them doing it with so many staff, it would get the entire district
see.
done in a year.
Okay.
And then we would just have to maintain scanning in our own stuff year over year, or maybe do one little bit versus a whole
Okay.
entire district's where since it started.
I was wondering how you were gonna get it done when
Yeah.
it was only 35%.
Oh.
But it took 2 years, but now it makes sense because there's only one person as opposed to.
Correct.
Okay.
How much did they budget to do it?
So total for the entire district, it was gonna be a little over $100,000. I don't have the exact number, but I split it up per department. So what I did is I asked RMMI, split it up per department. And then we budgeted that as
You
a line
budgeted
item in the 2026 budget so that we made sure it would be correctly there for every single department to afford and budget for.
We'd have to run this through procurement, wouldn't we?
No,
We-
she's talking about sole source because
Okay.
they've already done 35% of it, so.
Correct. And so we've already purchased the platform, but we just are here to basically make sure we're doing our due diligence, let you all know, because I already had discussed at the end of 2025 doing this project management. We had spoken with procurement and finance. They believe we can do the sole source based off of us owning the platform, but we wanted to make sure it was okay with the board to continue with the sole source, or if you feel like we should put it out to bid. We have gotten the 3 competitive, bids and estimates, but this one made the most sense.
And you said one of them wants to go out of state,
2 of them.
or two, oh, so they want it, so what were you talking about, Katrina, as far as options to be cheaper? I mean, I guess they could be cheaper, but
So-
there's more.
It's just the idea that if you put it out to bid, there is the potential that somebody could come at a lower cost. But as Bree pointed out, all the other companies that we looked at were gonna be coming from out of state, and they would have to transfer those files, which assumingly would incur costs. And so it's just I don't wanna assume that, those other individual or those other companies wouldn't come in at a lower cost. I do wanna correct, though, the total for all the services was $180,000.
180?
$180,000. And so when we were doing the budgeting for 2026, Bree went through and kind of broke out the cost between all the different cost centers, and then we budgeted it in. So the amount is already budgeted for the 2026
And we
budget.
got 30% already on the database?
That's just for utilities.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
that's
if we
just
went
one
with somebody
department.
else, they would have to recreate that?
Correct. And we'd have to move it over, is what we'd have to do. We'd have to basically move the information from the one database to another, and then make sure everyone can easily access it, is the issue also.
And it's gotta merge
Mhm.
perfectly
Mhm.
together.
And you want an action item?
I think we just need consensus from the board as
Oh.
to whether or not we can continue moving forward with the sole source, or if you would prefer for a competitive bid.
Where,
I'm good with
where are we
sole
at
source.
on the budget on that?
They budgeted this year for it.
For
Oh.
2026, yeah, it's budgeted per department.
I'll make a motion to move forward to approve, as presented.
Sole source?
Sole source. To provide that data transfer.
Second.
A motion to move forward with, procuring, what's their name?
RMMI.
RMMI to take over, all of the district's, record storage.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, sorry. Playing with the computer. Next is the evaluation of immediate elimination of remote work. And I'm assuming that's Katrina Peter.
Yeah, I'm gonna open it up. Bree, would you mind getting it to the 63 Spalding map? Okay, so I appreciate the conversation that's taken place so far, and I know, like Christian reiterated earlier, we did have a discussion about remote work. We did kind of take a look at operational impacts and how we can go ahead and implement immediate removal of remote work. And so that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about today, is what that plan looks like, what are the potential impacts, and just open it up for conversation. I do want to be very clear right from the get-go. My role and our role in this conversation is not about advocating for or against remote work. We are just purely looking at what it's going to look like to implement this as soon as possible and how that's going to impact work. So if you look at the map there, that is 63 Spalding, and the main parts that are going to be impacted is going to be that right wing there. So 63 Spalding has the most impact throughout the district for the immediate removal of remote work options, and so that's what we mainly took a look at here. And so if you're looking at that building there, it's about 5,500 square feet, and we will have about 25 employees housed there. If we have all employees working the same hours, that's basically what it's going to look like. So in the bottom right corner, you guys will see the IT office there. That is going to be one of the main areas that's going to be impacted. We are going to basically be assigned 4 office locations for our business administration team to be able to work in office. And then Christian and I will be housed together in that bottom purple office there. So the main impacts that we are looking at is just basically having more people in office spaces that it's already kind of limited in size. So for a building that's 5,500 square feet with about 25 staff, we're looking at about 220 square foot per person. That includes hallways, restrooms, kitchen, any sort of shared space. With that brings concerns in regards to noises, distractions, reduced focus, especially if you're looking at 3 people per office. And I don't know how many of you guys have seen that office, but it's fairly small. So there are going to be, I think, operational impacts just with the building itself. Any sort of confidential work, that's why Christian and I will be housed together, is because I don't think there are very many conversations that one or the other can't be in that meeting. But if you look at the other department directors, if they have to meet with staff, do coaching or anything like that, they need to be able to have their own private office location to do so. So that's how we try to arrange it. But again, there's going to be definite impacts. If we were to wait until the building is constructed at 79 Spalding, that would alleviate a lot of those concerns. But I do just want to kind of highlight this for now, understanding the implications of immediate or movement option immediately. I do also want to talk about a very imminent concern that I have if we were to move forward with this immediately, and that is turnover. Several of our high-performing employees have indicated pursuit of higher flexibility if this were to be moved forward, and I think some of the other concerns regarding some of the comments that we had talked about previously is a portion of that as well. With that, you got loss of institutional knowledge, gaps in services, so I do worry about the impact to our ability to continue to provide services at the level that we are now, understanding that turnover, and especially for some of those positions that are unique in their skill set, like for example, if we were to lose an employee like Brandy, that position in itself is very unique. You can't have someone just step into that role. Same thing with like our economic development manager. It's very unique skill sets. There's something to be thought of there. And with concerns regarding morale and everything else, I think that's a very realistic impact there. Other operational impacts, just service delivery risk. My concern with that is just overall operations. I don't know if you guys have ever spent a lot of time in a very isolated or a very small amount of space, and I'm a reader, for example, so whenever somebody's reading or whenever I'm trying to read and somebody's talking to me, you can't focus. Those are things that I worry about in a dynamic like this or a situation like this, is you can't really focus on things. Our IT department is often, looking at, doing research for server upgrades, or, when they were working on the VPN for the district, all those different things that requires being able to focus your attention. And that's a concern that I have with, you know, so many people in such a tight space. I think some of the other concerns that we had is just leadership bandwidth, basically time spent on turnover, training, morale, anything like that. But overall, this is the plan. We wanted to deliver it to the board, let them know kind of what the feedback is. One thing that I do want to kind of talk about though is if I kind of want to identify what the problem is, if it's, you know, perception, if it's productivity, if it's, you know, consistency in treatment. I think there's ways that we can look at that and find solutions that work for everybody. And that is something I really want to highlight. I appreciate Director Vickers. I appreciate Director Pasternak and everybody for the comments that were made today. I think this is really important that we move forward and take a step together as a team to try to work through this. You know, staff don't want to be on opposing side, board doesn't want to be on opposing side. We're all here to serve a purpose of the community, and we are all stewards to this community. And so what I want to identify is whatever concern it is, we will find a solution and address it. If ultimately, at the end of the day, the board just wants to remove remote work, that is something you can do. That is within your authority to do so. But I think the concern is just understanding those potential operational impacts and trying to find a way that we can kind of come to a middle ground with it. Is maybe we can, you know, look at 79 Spalding and implement it at that time so we don't see the operational impacts highlighted here. Or we can have kind of a time period in which we allow our staff to adapt and our leadership team to be able to implement this in a way that is productive and cohesive. Did I capture everything, Christian?
I would like to make the inside joke of you did mostly well, but no, you did great. The only parts that I would add towards it, and I really appreciated Katrina highlighting what problem we were trying to solve, because I think something I shared with President Vickers today, if the goal is to remove remote work, that can be done. And I think that there could be a conversation of how that could be implemented and which way, as we talked about earlier, wouldn't have caused potential concerns about the trust and the morale that we had seen as a reaction to it. The problem in trying to solve it as unidentified or as part of the feedback that you've gotten is where, when Katrina mentioned the turnover of folks that may have indicated to us they're concerned about it, they may be moving forward, or they may evaluate after tonight's decision, if there is a decision, comes more from how it was approached and handled, less so about whether they have the benefit of remote work or not. I think there are some folks who obviously enjoy the benefit, but it had more to do with how the conversation took place than it did the actual benefit under question. So whatever that conversation looks like going forward from here about what problem we're trying to solve, maintain productivity, the oversight, looking to make sure there's equitable things, because one of the things that I think we highlighted with the survey is sorry, I don't know if we highlighted it during the conversation. I'll highlight it now. In the survey, there are comments that come to talk about, hey, I do or don't like remote work. Here is what I think about it. Here is something that I find to be fair or unfair about it. And I think there's actionable feedback within that to make sure that if there are concerns about whether it's supervisor discretion or is it fair for an on-site versus remote eligible personnel, that we can evaluate it and make sure that if the goal is to make sure it's equitable, I think there's ways to do that without removing it as a benefit, but we just like the board's discussion and guidance to make sure we're trying to solve the right problem. And the only other thing that we shared in part of the conversation is, let's say the goal is just to make sure everybody looks like they're in their office at all times. The thing that we acknowledge about the district is it's very widespread. That whole right hallway, oftentimes those folks can be caught in meetings all across the district and find themselves, like, you might still run into the same problem where if you went down to 63 Spalding on a given day, you might see that hallway occupied by maybe one or two people. A lot of the folks may be at 356, they may be at the DP1 fire station. If you go down the other hallway where you have HR, a lot of times they can be called out. I know Jess, our HR director, is very happy about 31 interviews for firefighters and the amount of time that took to take away from being in that office because she was over at fire station. So just to share that if the problem we're trying to solve might be perception, that may not be solved by eliminating remote work. So appreciate that. I know there's a second part to this conversation, but I think this is a good place to pause and see if there's any questions or feedback.
Not yet. You guys have anything?
Well, I think I think what he's asking is what is trying to be accomplished by removing remote work? What's the answer to that question?
I think most of it came back on, I'm just gonna say perception, I think. Perception of what is being observed versus possibly what we've overlooked as what's being done. Again, I still stand where I stand because of our position descriptions. I know it's a minute thing, but it still means something. If they're willing to make those adjustments, I have no problem with it. Those are the things we can look at doing, I think. But at the same time, I think leadership should also be around a lot more and be visible a lot more and, you know, as necessary, or in their seats, basically. How you guys manage your people that work for you is your decision, but I think leadership should be around a lot more. But that's where I stand. Again, it's nothing personal. It's business on my side. Perception, I think, is where it all began. And I think that's where we took the perception and went with what we saw versus what's being done.
Gotcha.
But again, I stand firm on where I stand on the dynamics of remote work. I have nothing against it. I just think we need to reevaluate how we address position descriptions, what positions are remote work qualified, what, you know, those type of things.
Yeah. Is it okay to
Yeah,
share?
yeah.
Right now, I would say, I guess, if corrected, I'll ask her to correct me, but most job descriptions don't identify specific locations oftentimes. They do identify hours, saying whether it was a 410 job description, it might be in there. Most of them say the 8 to 5 for these are the typical office hours of the business, maybe at supervisor discretion and flexibility. So to a point of like evaluating job descriptions of if we do move forward and we continue to have remote work, making sure it's identified in that job description whether remote work eligible or not, and maybe how much of it. That's a fair ask. And then the presence thing, the perception, I can share that I had a little bit of a conversation today. I have a preference to be out when I can. So if I'm going to call up Carol and meet with Carol as our parks director, I would like to be going to parks so that way I could be visible there, not just at 63 and ask for people to come to me. To the point of like, does that create a perception of like Christian's not in his office at times where generally go through. I think I saw it on a recommendation of specific times where it's like, hey, you know Christian's going to be at 63 Spalding between 10 to 2 of these days. So I think there's ways to be able to address those perception issues as an example. I appreciate that.
I think there's a little misunderstanding here. I stand firm where I'm at. I agree with, if you were hired to work physically in the office building at 63 Spalding, then that's where you should be. But on the same token, at the last meeting, I said, after you said you could come up with ways to do it in 30 days, I said, I don't care if it's 3 12s and then 4 days, or 4 10s, or either 5 8-hour work days. I left that at your discretion, is what I was basically saying, is that we need to have the resemblance that we are at work, especially in the eyes of the public, our taxpayers that pays the salaries. Okay? My wife worked for DHS here in Pueblo County for 3 years. Her first 3 months was at home, 4 days out of the week, training until she got certified. And one of those days, she had to be there on a prescribed day of the week at the office, even though she was doing training. It's just so she could touch base with the supervisor face to face. Then later on, 3 days in the office, 2 days, she could work remote. Well, a lot of those 2 days were Fridays and Saturdays because when are the kids out of school and you're able to talk to them face to face and ask them if they're safe? Are you comfortable with this foster home? Are you comfortable with this kinship placement? I'm not against remote work, but it's gotta be designed and prescribed. I will tell you, a year into that they said, no, we have people abusing remote work, and everybody will come back to the office. And they did that for the last 2 years. And that was their decision. So there was no more remote work. Unless you were up in Grand Junction doing a home visit to see the kids, and you're in your hotel room because you gotta stay overnight because it's a 7-hour drive there. And then you come back the next day. So, the mere fact that we have office hours and we're not maintaining those, like I said, it's gonna open up a big can of worms. But you have the direction of the board as of 2 weeks ago, that we want people to come back to work. Okay?
The direction was for him to come up with a plan.
Right. Yeah.
To present to us, so that's what they're doing.
That's what we're doing, and this is where we're discussing that what options there are and what they got going on. Again, if there's more time needed.
It's not a sky is falling scenario.
Right.
We've given the opportunity to say, hey, there's more time needed, we've given you that opportunity, obviously. I just, mine stands on the fact that, I understand one-offs, you guys are gonna control certain situations in this. At the same time, I'm like, I think it comes back to the perception. It was just the perception. And as the 2 weeks have gone by, looking more into it, I think some of our perceptions were wrong. However, I still stand on until those things are negotiated, I think they should be in the office, ready to do work. That's my thoughts.
Go ahead.
I was gonna share, there's a second part to the conversation that talks about where that perception, the concern of the how it was a feeling for a lot of people of like they were being either attacked. There was a conversation of, is this something that feels like we're being compared to others that may have been abusing the system and therefore we're being implied to abuse the system? And so that's where, to the point of one of the rhetoric that we heard tonight, just recently, is that we want to bring people back to work. But the answer to that is, there's a fallacy called begging the question. The statement that is being made makes it sound like they're not working right now. Whether they're working remotely, whether they're working in a different office, whether they're working in their primary office, that rhetoric made it sound like to them and to members of the public, like we have employees who are not working. Now, you might be able to say, and fairly say, we have employees that are not working at the office, that they're working remote, and we want to bring them back into the office for it. I think it's a fair statement if that's a preference, but that's not how it came across when that conversation came up. So to the point of perception and the point of that, I think there are ways to address it. Whether you keep remote work as an option or not, whether that includes revising job description or not, I think I understood, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there is an openness to remote work.
Yeah, and I said that at the last meeting, that it would be a case-by-case basis with you.
Sure.
But everybody should have the same opportunity.
So to a point, I'll give an example, and this is not something recommending tonight, because I think it's something recognized as the board made that motion. We wanted to come back with a plan pretty quickly, just give an idea of what it would look like, and give evaluation. I'll share and chime in if you feel differently. Our essential recommendation is to continue evaluating this and plan for whatever the policy decision is, whether to remove remote work or to elevate it in level, like we do that in conjunction with the construction of 79 East Spalding for implementation. That would afford a timeline and an approach that allows us to make sure that we don't run into those productivity or turnover issues, or at least reduce the risk of it. But some of those examples that came from the surveys and feedback is, hey, I'm gonna use examples, these are not exact, they're just hypotheticals. Let's say I'm in HR and I have a boss that does not like me remote working based on the policy. That supervisor has the discretion to determine whether that person can remote work or not. Across the hall might be the finance department, and they're open to remote work for their supervisor. And those two people, who might have very similar expectations or similar job descriptions and expectations, might have different results or different realities based on who their supervisor is. To your point, that's bringing the decision-making authority down to the supervisor, which if you look across the hall, could create an inconsistency and a question of fairness. Elevating it to whether it's HR, whether it's the department head, district manager, or some combination with the chief administrative officer, could be a way to make sure that it's more consistently applied. Or it may be consistently applied to job descriptions, so that way there's a consistency across the entire district. Those are examples of things that we can evaluate based on feedback we've heard and addressing maybe either a perception or reality that some people are experiencing. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to eliminate remote work. But once we start talking about that, it starts generating how are we going to make it work. And some of that can be with different shift schedules or staggered shifts, but not a lot of it when it considers that you want, some of those are, there's only one person serving in that position. So open for the conversation and discussion for it. As far as the problem we're trying to solve, I think we're just trying to identify, to the point, is it perception? Is it a reality that we're concerned about productivity? Is it something that we take more time to evaluate and you ask us for what would be useful feedback and information to consider before making a decision? But I think, would you disagree on the recommendation? As far as the going forward coinciding with 79 Spalding and the evaluation to continue from there.
No, I don't think I disagree with that. I appreciate Christian kind of re-highlighting the purpose of like the question posed of what are we trying to achieve here, or what is the main concern here. Director, I'm sorry, I blanked. Director Potter, the concern regarding perception, I think is a valid concern, especially like with leadership and understanding like there needs to be accessibility. But as Christian pointed out, if we have multiple locations, multiple buildings, is that presence known to everyone? So if Christian is only at 63 Spalding, is that presence being seen at, you know, all the different other locations, the fire stations, the parks department, wherever it may be? I think where a lot of this came up is that one hallway being empty semi-routinely, and I think a big portion of it is a lot of our senior leadership. And so when we have senior leadership meetings, if we have any sort of events or anything like that, they are out and about doing different activities or meeting with different staff. And so even if we were to remove remote work, that perception is still going to exist because we're still going to be going to different locations. Until we have one building where everyone is housed, we're still going to be out and about meeting with different staff. So I don't know that solves the concern. To Director Roberts' point, as far as office hours, like I think that's fair, like understanding that, you know, we need to have our offices open from 8 to 5 unless certain circumstances exist. But I don't know that applying the remote work or removing that is going to change anything. We are still going to be functioning. We are still going to be providing service to the community. We're still, you know, working regardless of where we're at. And our customer service oriented staff are the ones that are routinely there day in, day out. And they're not obviously remote working. So that's why we want to pose that question is like, what is the concern and how can we fix this? And is this something that we can have as a conversation together to try to address it? And ultimately, if the board just wants to have everybody in office, then yes, my recommendation absolutely would be to wait until we have 79 Spalding so we don't see these operational impacts. But if it's a different issue that we're trying to solve, then my recommendation is that we have a conversation together and try to find a solution.
So, at the last meeting, they said we need to be fair and consistent, and the only way to be fair and consistent at this point is everybody comes back to work. Okay? That's just based upon if we already have people doing remote work, and now all of a sudden you do an early office closure, what's the public's perception? When there's no note on the door.
Greg, we've been
We're
over that.
rehashing this.
We've
Right.
been
But
over
I'm
that.
Add some context to
Enough.
this whole thing. All right,
Stick with the,
we're rehashing here.
yeah. With the,
I think that holding off on the situation until Spalding or however we work that stuff out is a valid point.
Bare minimum,
Bare minimum, yeah.
bare minimum.
And trying to find ways to work around these issues, because again, I still say my position is this. I understand there's different things in perception with the position descriptions, but it still means something. They're still there. They were hired for this. It was there. And I've given an out for the situation, in my opinion. Change those up a little bit, negotiate, renegotiate or something. That's my thought process. And I'm not against remote work, but does it say that in their contract, so to speak? If it doesn't, then you gotta be at work. That's my thought process. Again, I'm rehashing my own statements. I'm just saying that's where I'm at. I'm not against remote work, but until the changes are made to validate that, then that's where I am. Again, there's something to be said about the Spalding situation, or
There's a lot to be said about that. And I don't want to keep this conversation going
Yeah,
tonight.
I got a lot to say, so
We
go
have to
ahead.
have a frank conversation that does bring up things that might be uncomfortable. The perception is that, yes, people take advantage of remote work. That's the perception. That's the perception that most companies have when they offer it. And there's a lot of companies that are bringing people back to work. Now, I'm not saying that our employees are doing that. That's the perception. That's what caused the conversation to begin with.
But we keep talking about perception. Question, is it actually showing up in results?
Well, that's one thing that we talked about today, is that you need to be able to measure those results. A government entity has a hard time measuring those results. So those are the kinds of things we need to, to say that people are getting their work done at home and they're putting in 14 hours isn't really it's not really a fair assertion of what's going on, I don't think. Because maybe in that time they're doing other things also, which is fine. But if you're gonna grade only the work that gets done as success, then I think there's a standard.
There's also people working at 8 o'clock at night.
What's that?
There's also people working at 8 o'clock at night.
Well, maybe they weren't working at 6, and I'm not accusing people. I'm saying this is what is coming into your mind. Maybe they're not working at 10 to 3. So I'm saying getting the work done isn't an accurate measurement of value.
What is necessary beyond getting the work done? They're here to get the work done.
Well, if they're not coming to the office, say somebody's not coming to the office, then there's obviously a benefit for them not to have to come to the office. Is there an offset in salary ranges for people that want to work remotely? When companies advertise remote positions, they're usually advertising the position, one, to get qualified people that they can't get in their market, or they offer all that flexibility, but they're not paying as much as what they would pay if they're in the office. There's a whole bunch of ranges of things that happen with people that are working remotely. We're gonna have an issue with 679 Spalding until that gets built. Do we allow people to work from home until we build that building, or do we allow people to work from home and don't build that building and build a boardroom? There's a lot of conversations that can be had. I'm just saying that it's not just, we don't trust you, so you can't work from home. There's other things that come into play. And I really want to reiterate that. There's other options that come into play. Otherwise, why don't you just have everybody work from home? If all you're concerned about is getting the work done. When you say you're off in meetings somewhere else, how do you communicate with people who are working from home?
The question is, if I'm in another meeting, how do I communicate with?
Or
someone
just,
else?
how do you communicate with people working from home?
I would say it's very consistent with the same way you might communicate two separate offices. A lot of it might be virtual. It
That's
might
my
be
point.
to that point.
Why are we sending upper management all around the district to have meetings when you can do it via phone or Zoom?
Yeah.
You know, that was a big thing in COVID, you know, let's Zoom in. I just think that there's something culturally beneficial to employees being in the office. You don't get.
They all come in, there's not one that's strictly remote, right?
Correct.
So they all have interface.
And those are the things that we can work on. Is getting all of that stuff in the plan.
Yeah.
Right?
So could I share a little bit of
Sure.
One of the things I thought was interesting as we had a conversation was, if you go to the private sector, you go to some place that sells a product, you can oftentimes measure the effectiveness of a company by how much money it earns or its profits or how that might look. Whereas the public, I think you brought up, like, we get the tax dollars, then we provide a service. How well we provide that service doesn't necessarily reflect on how many tax dollars we get. There's not quite that. Over time, elections have consequences. There's obviously a conversation to be had about that. But it's almost we evaluate it differently. The effect of, do we take a dollar that we get and produce 70 cents of value, $1.30 of value, straight at $1? And there could be a conversation of how do you measure productivity or the expectation of something in a different way for, I think, part of that conversation.
Yeah.
What I would, and I shared with President Vickers about it, is that whether you're working remote or whether you're in the office, you can have two people who have the same exact job duties, and you might get very different results depending on which one's working from home, which one's working from office. To a point, a concern of abuse would be somebody working from home can do their job that should take 40 hours. They do it in 20, and they get to spend the other 20 hours off. Understand where that concern comes from. I also understand the benefit is that if that employee can do 20 hours of work and they're doing 40 hours of work because they're doing more than what others can because they're more effective at it, there's value and benefit to the district to do that. And that same thing applies for the person in the office. They can, unless they have a supervisor directly watching them, which we are not set up to make it so that our supervisors are only doing supervision. A lot of them are working employees too. I have a parks director who has mowed weeds. Is she still here? No, she is not. I have had folks be out there and actually do some of the works, doing the work alongside of their folks. If you consider that, there aren't too many employees who are dedicated just to watch another employee do work themselves. So that can exist in the office too. If I have direct reports who are expected to do certain things, I expect the results of that and the time I expect it to take them to be how I measure their productivity or not. Whether I see them in the office and I'm able to check in with 15 minutes, or I know that they're working remotely and they have still have expectations. So that's where part of our conversation came to the point that I don't think that this necessarily solves the existing, if there is a productivity problem, until we evaluate further and see it, but to the point that I think we raised at the last one, and without getting hyper-specific about some of the stuff that I won't share because it's personnel details or confidential, this last year we saw us effectively making sure that folks who were not doing what they should be doing, whether that involved remote work or not, or productivity or not, we saw them being corrected, and then if they did not correct it, addressed, and there's a separation from the district. Our last year was predominantly involuntary separations. That is, in my mind, showing that if there were problems existing, again, not specific to remote work or productivity, but if there was a concern where you don't see those separations occur, that's when you can have, I think, raise a valid concern about our standards being upheld when we're seeing something that might be a perception otherwise. So that's what I would offer as far as whether it's remote work or not. Those things are being handled and addressed when we do recognize that there's a concern with somebody's behavior, attitude, or productivity when it comes to their performance.
Okay, so let's go to the organization, the charts that we just looked at. On all three of those at the top was the citizens. They just did a survey of several hundred of them that replied to. The two biggest concerns that they had were the condition of the roads and the lack of covenant enforcement. I don't remember a single person citing that remote work is an issue. That tells me that the public is not feeling any effect from the district's work schedules. Moreover, I don't recall a single staff issue mentioned outside of one complaint regarding the water department having an answering machine answer the phone. I said this before, I'll say it again, our core job is to remove hurdles for staff, not build them. In my opinion, we're building it. In my opinion, we should throw this out completely, or at the very least, reconsider in consideration of the admin building being built. And that's a different conversation, I suppose. Question. How much staff time has been spent developing this agenda item, researching, surveys, creating that chart?
I would say probably, you're looking at probably 10 hours a week for each person that probably had to do genuinely with the expectation of getting the results, analyzing results, and producing it to some degree of variation. So talking 20 plus hours at the very least, because you have at least one community development manager who was responsible for doing that and synthesizing it towards it, several hours for them. And then several of the leadership you're probably hearing talk tonight. Additionally, not just talking about it in preparation for the agenda, but the fallout that occurred because of the response that was felt from within the entire district, hearing the comments that were made March 9th. So that's including not just the evaluation preparation agenda, it's the fallout and the experience that people had that shared with us and addressed that they were concerned about it.
Thousands of dollars utilized in researching this, in my opinion, for zero reason whatsoever. 30% of the surveyed employees indicated they would actively consider leaving. There was 60 some odd respondents. 30% of that is 18. So your worst case scenario at $84,000 that they spent hours figuring out how much money it's going to cost for turnover. Worst case scenario, that's $1.5 million of turnover. Best case, there's only 6 that leave. That's $500,000. Okay? For what amounts to perception and resemblance of work. That's what we're talking about. I do agree it should be in job descriptions on the front end. This was in one of these documents. Labeling employee leave usage as a, quote, crutch, characterizing remote work as a, quote, laundry excuse, or implying that safety-based snow days are manipulated to create, quote, 3-day weekends. I don't think the word potentially should fit in there. I think it should say conflicts with the standard of, quote, respecting the dignity of staff, 100%. One of the staff's comments specifically from the survey says, if work is getting done and employees are happy, why mess with a good thing? But next comment, is the water on, fires being put out, IT tickets resolved? Staff deliver results. Again, citizens made 0 comments about remote work. So we're wasting time sitting here right now talking about this. Staff hours ticking up, sitting here talking about this. We should be talking about roads and covenant enforcement. I think we should throw it out. Just throw it out. At the very least, if you want to come back to it and talk about it, bring it up with the admin building, fine. In my opinion, it's ridiculous. And I'm embarrassed from the staff. I'm embarrassed for the staff as far as what transpired and is still being considered. It's just, to me, it's just spitting in their face. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I just that's it.
Anybody else? I think it's a valid, I think maybe it's gone too far in some degree, Mr. Pasternak, but I think concerns are valid.
I haven't heard anything other than perception. What is a factual negative item from the way the district manager and the remote work is currently being done.
Well, there were emails from employees that have stated that they're not necessarily happy with those things, some. So there's stuff that is out there.
And they put that in the survey, but, I mean.
But you ignore that.
It was certainly the minority.
55 out of 155 employees is not the majority. I'm just saying that there's things that can be looked at. If you want to throw out the remote work and let them work from home, then make a motion.
That was one of the things I said in the last meeting. I hadn't heard anything from the public myself. That's where the concern is. A citizen is where the concern for me is as well. Again, I don't have anything against remote work. That's why I said the whole thing started off with perception. Is that perception reality? I don't think so, because there's stuff that is happening. There's stuff that's moving. There are things that are going on. As my stance stands with the PD, the description of your work, your job title. I hate doing this, but I mean, when I was in the military, I had to do certain things. I signed a contract for that. That was a contract. Little did I know I was going to go to combat 4 times, but I did. You know, I didn't like it, but it was part of my job description, part of my duties, part of my responsibilities. At this moment, that's where I stand. That being said, I'm with him on that, because I did mention this. I hadn't heard anything from the citizens as far as this situation. If the citizen is the top, we're not hearing anything from them. I get it. You're going to have all sorts of animosity between staff. This person this person that. We all signed a job description that tells us what our job is. This person may have better opportunities in their job position than this position, versus like me in the infantry versus somebody who was a FOBIT, who sat on the fob all day long. That was the benefit that they got, you know, to the position that they have. And that's where I stand. That's why I stand. But to what he's saying, I agree with that. If it works, the perception of what is versus what's being conducted, I have to go with. I'd say we look at leaning towards the building of the administrative building or something along those lines when we discuss this type of stuff. Because again, we're kind of turning our wheels, and I understand where you're coming from, Bill, but I don't see an outcry from the public about staff not doing their job. Now, we did hear earlier from somebody about something going on in the fire department, which is concerning to me. I don't know how true that is, why people are going to this person versus coming to us. But I'm just saying, these are things, we always hear certain things. Employees will say things just because for the sake of saying things, instead of having any facts or grounds to speak on. I got the emails too. I don't know if those are fact. I don't know what the situation is that happened before I got here. But I did mention the last meeting that I didn't hear any public outcry on it. That's just where I'm at.
Well, then let's just scrap the whole thing and just go back the way it was.
And then tell the public has some sort of problem with it.
Until there's a way that it can be measured, I guess. I mean, or until the building's built to
facilitate.
Yeah.
Can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
Maybe that addresses all. If it would please the board to make we would like to postpone any further conversations on this and allow the district manager to take comments from the survey to address position descriptions and any equitable conditions for which we review the personnel policy anyways, and postpone any further conversations on remote work up until the point we are ready to construct 79 Spalding and implement any changes therein.
We can also update job descriptions.
Yes.
Yeah, we just update, why don't you just make a motion to update job descriptions reflecting how remote work works?
Sure. With that, man, you do things way simpler
How about
sometimes.
a motion, I'll make a motion to update job descriptions to describe how remote work works.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to update the job descriptions on how remote work works. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. You wanna,
You want me to?
do you wanna do letters or no?
Okay, yeah.
So,
Um,
is it okay
do you
if I
want me to
lead?
open it, or go ahead?
I was gonna let you read them. So I think that settles a remote work conversation for it. And I appreciate the feedback and I appreciate the conversation. Hearing board members challenge, address, share perspectives, absorb information and be able to reiterate or explain to each other, I think is a very valuable thing to experience. And I will share pretty honestly, this board is doing a lot better than I think previous boards have. So I appreciate everybody's time in that. There were additional comments that were shared with us that were asked to be read to the board. They go more towards that second part of this conversation, which we won't dive back into, we won't reopen and hash it out. But we did want to honor that conversation of it, because I think it addresses some of that. Where did the perception come from? And why is there a concern about where it's coming to feeling like it's personal attacks towards it? So I think there's 4 comments. We'd just like to share it with the board, so that way they can absorb it. If there's any questions about that, happy to follow up. And if there's any question about it, happy to discuss.
So just for context too, following the March 9th meeting, as Christian kind of highlighted as far as staff time and productivity, a lot of that time was spent kind of dealing with the fallout of that meeting and the impacts to staff. And so that was where you saw my email come out to the board. And we collected feedback from staff members, and then what was not included as part of the survey was captured here in these comments. And so I'm going to read these because I think it does capture the overall sentiment and some of the concerns that was highlighted. So first one, good afternoon. I would like to respectfully raise a concern regarding comments made by one of the directors during the recent discussion about remote work and employee attendance. The way in which the topic was addressed, including statements suggesting that employees use children or family responsibilities as a crutch, came across as unprofessional and ethically inappropriate. Additionally, comments of this nature sometimes appear to extend beyond the scope of the agenda topic being discussed during board meetings. When personal opinions or comparisons about employees' family situations are introduced into operational discussions, it can shift the focus away from the actual matter at hand and create an environment where employees feel personally judged rather than professionally supported. In some cases, these remarks do not appear directly relevant to the board meeting topic and can detract from productive discussion. As a single mother, hearing family responsibilities framed this way felt discouraging and somewhat degrading. While I understand the importance of maintaining accountability and ensuring that work responsibilities are met, it is also important to recognize that every employee's family situation is different. Not every employee has access to a large support system or village to help with childcare or unexpected circumstances. The example shared about raising 5 children while both parents worked 8-hour shifts in the same facility reflects one family's experience, but it does not represent the reality for many others. Some families have only one parent, limited childcare options, or circumstances where flexibility, such as remote work during snow days or early school releases, allows them to remain productive while also ensuring their children's safety. For context, I do not work remotely. My role requires me to be physically present at my desk during normal business hours to answer calls and assist customers and staff. However, situations such as early school releases or snow days due to inclement weather are highly relevant in my situation when it comes to ensuring my safety and my family's safety when traveling to and from work. These circumstances are not about avoiding work responsibilities. They are about ensuring that employees are able to safely make it home and care for their families during severe weather conditions. My role is also not considered an essential position in the same way that field operators and infrastructure personnel are. The district already has essential employees who are on call and responsible for maintaining the integrity of our water and wastewater infrastructure during emergencies or severe weather. That distinction between essential and non-essential roles exists for a reason. This structure allows the district to maintain critical services while also recognizing that not every role requires physical presence during emergency or weather-related situations. If all employees are treated as essential regardless of role, it risks creating unnecessary strain, duplicating responsibilities, and disrupting an environment that currently supports both work quality and employees' ability to manage responsibilities outside of work. I also want to express a broader concern that the current board of directors at times appears disconnected from the day-to-day operations of the Pueblo West Metropolitan District and from the employees who work hard to keep those operations running smoothly. From an employee perspective, there is already a strong work ethic within this district and systems in place that support both operational success and accountability. When comments are made that suggest employees are using family responsibilities as excuses, it creates the impression that there may be a misunderstanding of how our workplace currently functions and the level of commitment employees bring to their roles. At times, the tone of some Some discussions can feel as though the board is coming in like a wrecking ball to systems that are already working, rather than trusting the leadership structure that has been established. The board of directors hired a district manager to facilitate operational and ethical decisions for the district, including decisions that impact employee safety and operational continuity. That role exists to ensure thoughtful leadership, accountability, and decision-making based on the realities of day-to-day operations. Because of this, I believe it'd be beneficial to have a broader conversation about how employees are discussed during board meetings. The way employees are sometimes spoken about or characterized can feel dismissive, disconnected from our actual responsibilities, and at times not fully reflective of the facts. A respectful and informed dialogue between the board and district staff would help strengthen trust and understanding across the organization. I share this perspective respectfully in hopes that we continue to foster a workplace culture that maintains professionalism in discussions and recognizes the realities employees face both inside and outside of work. Most of us work hard not only for the district, but for the families who depend on us. Supporting employees and balancing those responsibilities ultimately strengthens morale, trust, and long-term commitment to the organization. Thank you for taking the time to consider this perspective. Next one, I want to take a moment to share some concerns regarding recent interactions and the overall hostile working environment for employees, which is caused by the unprofessionalism of our board of directors. First and foremost, our employees truly care about the work they do. They are dedicated to serving the residents of Pueblo West and supporting the board in its role. Many of our staff go above and beyond. They work outside of normal business hours, respond to calls and emails in the evenings, and step up whenever needed to keep the district running smoothly, even giving up family time to ensure nothing is missed. That is why it has been difficult to see staff publicly criticized or spoken to in ways that feel discouraging. Our presenters and employees are professionals and subject matter experts who are doing their best to provide accurate and thoughtful information to support your decisions. I also want to acknowledge our district manager, our executive leadership team, and our senior leadership team. They work incredibly hard to support both the staff and board, often under challenging circumstances, and remain committed to moving the district forward positively. Recent comments about employee productivity, particularly regarding flexible or remote work or using family and children as an excuse or crutch, have not reflected the reality of how hard our staff works. More importantly, they have had a real impact on morale. Employees increasingly feel they are neither trusted nor valued. They also feel that the Pueblo West Metro Board of Directors does not value family and acts hypocritically when they supposedly pride themselves on family and values. Pueblo West Metro District has always been a place that prides itself on trust, teamwork, ethics, and a strong sense of community. Right now, many employees feel that those values are being tested, and morale is lower than it has been in quite some time. I share this because I care deeply about this organization and the people who make it what it is. This is honestly the best place I've ever worked. Coworkers truly care for one another and support you during and after work hours. For us to be successful, it is important that we maintain mutual respect and clear roles, allowing the board to focus on governance and leadership to maintain and manage day-to-day operations. I respectfully ask the board of directors to reflect on the district's core values and the example that they want to set for our employees and our community. Rebuilding trust and maintaining professionalism with the employees will be a long, hard road, but it will go a long way in strengthening both morale and our working relationships moving forward. Members of the board and district manager. To paraphrase Title I, General Provision 1, TAC 6, TAC 13, the district manager is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the district. The board's role is to set policy, ensure accountability, and evaluate performance, not to manage operational tasks. When the board inserts itself into operational details, it blurs the line between governance and management and weakens both. There is a concerning lack of trust from the board regarding the professional staff. Departments are being forced through redundant hurdles to complete routine work, wasting time and resources. This is not strong oversight, it is dysfunction. Budgets are approved annually based on projected needs. When a department comes in under budget, that reflects responsible fiscal management, not misuse of funds. Repeated references to fraud, waste, and abuse without evidence only damage morale and erode public trust. The district is operating within approved budgets and policies. When departments follow those rules, processes should move forward, not be stalled by constant challenges that make the board appear disorganized and adversarial. Life is an ever-moving target, allowing personnel who are in administration or office setting the flexibility to work remotely, per circumstance, or part-time, helps dedicated employees continue performing their jobs effectively. The workplace has evolved. Reasonable flexibility, including remote work when appropriate, allows employees to remain productive and engaged. Department heads, not the board, should manage staff. The district should function as a modern workplace that supports administration and essential employees, all while still maintaining accountability. The suggestion that flexibility leads to laziness is a serious misunderstanding of how effective teams operate today. The comments regarding FMLA also reflect a misunderstanding of that process. FMLA is a structured and legally regulated program. It is not something employees can casually misuse. Today's workforce expects a healthier work-life balance, and organizations that recognize this often sees higher productivity and stronger employee commitment. When leadership imposes rigid constraints, it discourages the very employees who once went above and beyond. Engagement declines, and some employees can become disengaged. The board should focus on self-correction, reviewing the materials provided, listening to professional staff, and maintaining its role in setting strategic direction, not managing day-to-day operations. It also appears that public feedback, including surveys and social media comments, is not being meaningfully considered. While some board members have stated they did not use platforms like Facebook, that does not lessen the importance of community input. However, if these patterns do not change, then all these discussions and efforts are ultimately futile. If there is no trust within the board itself, there will be no trust from the community, employers, or voters. And finally, dear members of the board, I am both a resident and an employee of the Pueblo West Metro District, and I am greatly concerned. Comments and focuses in the last few board meetings have shown there's a lack of care over the things that matter and a targeted focus on employees. It is my assumption that this is due to the fact that one board member in particular ran out under the guise of being the dog of Pueblo West Metro District, and once in his seat found out that there isn't a whole lot of waste in the Metro's spending. So of course it must be the employees that have to be the problem with spending. This is evident with the planned action of going to the admin office on an obvious bad weather condition day near the end of normal business hours for the sole purpose of creating a gotcha moment that has escalated into where we are today. Insinuations of employees stealing time through remote work and not doing their work, statements of families being a crutch, implications that employees are generally lazy, that our health and well-being are not worth a weather closure, etc. As a resident, it doesn't matter to me where my local officials complete their work. If they are able to do their work remotely and my needs as a resident are met, there isn't an issue to address to begin with. As an employee, my job involves periods that I must develop and write code for vital program that control automated systems, which requires direct and distinct focus. Every interruption and distraction can cause an error in the coding that then takes additional time to backtrack and locate where the error is. This is not a task that I must do regularly, but I would be one of the few times where I may request to work remotely, seeing as I do not have an office and I operate out of a shared space in an open area that has regular traffic, distractions, and the opportunity for others to want to discuss other control system issues that may not be a priority, but are a distraction nonetheless. So my time is less valuable because remote would make it more efficient by limiting distractions. I understand that my situation may not be the same for others who work remotely, but that doesn't devalue the work that they do and insinuate that they should have a reduced compensation for remote/hybrid work speaks to a lack of character and ethics on your part. If you can't understand that someone else can complete their work without being on site, demonstrates your own personal lack of integrity. As far as moving to change every employee's status to essential to eradicate weather closures, the argument was used that people look up to the government as a justification that everyone should be in office, despite hazardous conditions that may exist. If the government is being looked up to, it should be the example that they take their employees' well-being into account. Lead by example that when the weather is bad and people shouldn't be out and about, unless it's absolutely crucial, allow their employees to stay home and stay safe. Imagine if the private sector took that outlook on their employees. But instead, the comment was made as if we are a leader to the community, while demonstrated we should follow the norm and have butts in seats regardless of hazards. Are all the employees who are employed under non-essential positions going to get a pay increase since they are now going to be considered essential? It is only fair since remote work should be compensated less, right? When someone talks about how they were able to raise their children, my assumption the children are about my age based on the age of the board member making the statement, and then use that to insult and devalue the employees that schedule will be impacted at the changes that are being suggested. It is relevant to compare the now to the then. If my mother tried to raise me now, how she was able to raise me then, she would end up in the prison system you speak so fondly of. This day and age, a child can't be dropped off of the bus, walk home, use a key to get into the house, and be allowed to sit unsupervised for hours until the parents get home from work, like I was able to do when my single mother who worked 12+ hour shifts to support me and my special needs brother. To remain ignorant of the differences in time periods and still try to use it as a justification for frankly rude and insulting comments just further speaks to your character and a general lack of understanding of times we currently live in. The level of micromanaging this board seems to be taking is becoming a detriment to the community you were elected to serve. The time and effort spent sowing distrust for the employees that dedicate themselves to serving the community, whether through ensuring the water we drink is safe, the parks we use are maintained, the permits we need are filed, and so on and so forth, is a disservice to your constituents and the community. You would be the board of nothing if there weren't people doing the work that you choose insult by insinuating that they are lazy, not performing, and stealing time. So I know that that was a very difficult read and probably very difficult to hear, but I think it's important that we do read that and for the board to kind of hear that feedback, because as Director Pasternak pointed out, this has had a drastic impact on our staff, an immediate drastic impact, and it was not about the remote work. It was not about implementing that immediately. It was about the language that was used and the way that there was the justification that was implied to our staff. And so representing, you know, a lot of the members of our staff here today and understanding how it's impacted our general operations, we spent the last 2 weeks trying to ensure that our staff, especially our highly productive, highly driven staff, did not leave the district, and that they still feel respected and valued. And that's where I would like to take this point from here, open it up for, you know, further conversation with the board, see if we can open up dialogue and a little bit more, I guess, respectful approach when it comes to those types of issues, knowing that it impacts our staff who are on the front lines, who are servicing our community.
I'm gonna respond. First of all, yeah, I did raise 5 kids and 2 parents working 8+ hour shifts. But prior to that, I was a single dad with 3 boys between the age of 1.5 to 8 years old. And I was a Cub Scout leader at the same time, during that time frame. So I've experienced being a single parent. I know what it's like to drive all the way from Tupelo Drive in Colorado Springs to Florence, Colorado. The other thing is, according to Google, January 23rd, 2026, Pueblo West received less than a ½ inch of snow. And we had an early office closure. And we had a meeting right here at 9 o'clock for the pool committee with about 6 staff present and 2 people who drove down from Denver, the architecture and the engineer, to be here for that meeting. Third thing is, should I read all the emails that I got, specifically the one prior to our last meeting? Because it names names, dates, places, and times. And we all got that email. I think we all chose not to read it out loud because it would put people on the spot. So, with that being said, perception. It is what it is.
Again, this is before we had the chance to discuss this situation, what we've come to the agreement upon at this moment. I say, I understand where these people are coming from, sorta. I mean, again, I signed up in the military for 23 years. I was called to do my duties and responsibilities for 23 years. 4 combat tours, I had to leave my family, had to do the things that were necessary. That's what I signed the contract for. That's why I go back to the position description. I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but again, before we had the time to discuss all this stuff, right now, I currently work a full-time job. I work sometimes 60 hours a week. And then I come in and do the board work. I try to keep up on the board work. That's what I was elected to do. Those type of situations come up where it gets a little bit cumbersome. But I still move forward with what I was elected to do by the people. And at the time, there was a perception, we go back to the word, that the staff was not in the office all the time. And again, after the 2 weeks of reflection, it seemed to be more of an accusatory situation versus matter of fact. This is what we saw, this is what we see, and then we've also come back for full circle again, saying, I think we need to be communicating with Christian a lot more as board members. If you see something, and there might be something that is a misconception, you go to Christian and ask him. That's what he's here for. Not just to throw out whatever needs to be thrown out because we saw something and maybe we ask the questions that need to be asked. I'm not saying that some of those I didn't understand some of those comments, but at the same time, never have I heard anybody say anybody's lazy. Not once. I guess it's the implied perception of what we were saying. I don't find that to be true. Again, I'm gonna reiterate that. But I'm also a contract means something. Address it, and let's see what that means, when it comes to who's viable for remote work versus who's not, that kind of stuff. But again, every one of us board members here, I can't speak for them, but I'm gonna say, we all have external lives aside from being on the board. We have to deal with things outside of this situation where I'm working full-time, and I appreciate everybody here that has offered me the time to, the time for me so that I can make it here on time. Although, we kind of rectified that anyway, so I get here a little early now, so I can get stuff prepared. But we all have things that we deal with in our lives. We all have things that we have to navigate through, and that's part of being an adult. That's part of growing up, so to speak. And my thought process is, until those are changed, you should be present a little more than what I think was observed. But again, I'm not here every single day either, and I have to admit that.
I just want to say I appreciate a lot of your comments in regards to that, and I just want to clarify that a lot of this is not, again, coming from wanting to implement or remove remote work. It's literally just about how staff are perceiving the justification for it and how it's impacting, and why I think it's so important to bring it to the board's attention as a whole is because that survey that was conducted showed that out of the responses that we received, 58% of our staff felt not valued, not respected. And when you have that type of decrease in morale, my immediate concern is what that does to our customer service, our ability to provide good customer service to our constituents, our ability to ensure that there is consistency in staff, we're not seeing turnover. I think that we are moving in a very positive track, and to be honest with you, I want this to be a good, fruitful conversation so that way we can come together as staff and the board and I guess just try to have better dialogue, better communication. You highlighted just there about, wanting to have more conversations with Christian. I think that's what we're looking for, is we just want to ensure that staff are feeling valued after hearing these meetings. We are working through these problems. We are, working on our strategic plan and, basically upholding our core values, the ones right there on the board. I think it's just really important that when we notice times in which maybe we're not meeting expectations on both sides, that we bring it to attention so that way we can address it and move forward together as a team. Because we're all in it for the same purpose. We're all wanting to serve the taxpayers. We're all wanting to do the best we can for Pueblo West. And so that's why I think it's so important to bring it to the table today.
The only thing I promise I'll stop talking. One of the comments, somebody said, if these conversations do not change. Understand that these comments came in before tonight's conversation. If you take a moment of self-reflection and you heard some of those comments and felt like you're already doing the work to address that, and you're having conversations and trying to evaluate what are the things that might come next, you're already doing the work. And we really appreciate that there was conversation towards that and recognizing how we can move forward and collaborate together. As Katrina said, we are all in this together. So we appreciate that, and don't feel like those comments are coming after tonight's conversation. That's it.
Next. We'll move on.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Consent action items. The minutes, procurement policy, resolution, the Committee of Architecture resolution, Fire Station 1 professional. Anybody have anything they need questioned?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent action items.
Second.
I have a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Public comments?
Good evening, Board of Directors. I do have one additional one, and it was from Mr. Madero. He apologized. He said, in my rush earlier with the first public comment, I forgot to mention we'll be taking donations tomorrow from 7:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. as we're delivering Wednesday mid-morning. And just as a reminder, this is for the 24 fire. They're collecting at 359 East Enterprise Drive, Suite 18. From 7:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. tomorrow.
7:30 to 2:30 tomorrow, donations, okay.
Are we able to provide donations or do anything like that as far as helping out with that kind of stuff, or is it in our means?
You're talking about as the district, right?
Right.
We decided not.
I think when it came to
Oh,
donations
okay.
themselves, we made a pretty hard policy
Yeah,
towards
that's
it.
right, that's right. Okay, thank you.
But I would encourage if anybody feels individually,
Right,
by all means.
I'm just saying as a district. I got it.
What's the location of the donation again?
It is located at 359 East Enterprise Drive, Suite 18. From
Okay.
tomorrow,
I
7:30
think that's
a.m.
at
to
his
2.
business location.
Yes.
Yeah.
The fire, I just got an update, the fire is 4,595 acres, 0% containment. There are 2 heavy aircraft, 2 super scoopers, you know, they're landing out at the reservoir, scooping up water. 2 super scoopers and 170 firefighters.
That's all the public comments, sir.
Where am I? Board member, I'm praying there's no board member comments.
No.
District manager.
The only thing I wanted to clarify, because it was one of the early public comments, was about the taking a social media and linking it to another site. I did get confirmation from our team that just to clarify, the district didn't link any posts nor seek to share anything where we then accepted comments in a different format. District Facebook profile page was tagged in a post on another site, which we just shared appreciation for those who made us aware of it, and then forward the conversation that was happening to the board for their awareness. We can review that in response to how we approach those situations in our policy revisions, but we typically respond to those who directly message us anyways, and just share appreciation for this in a similar way. So that was clarity on that situation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just to also let you know, there are individuals out there cutting and pasting whatever we've said from a year and a half to 2 years ago. Okay? And putting that out there, trying to distort the truth and slander members of the board. So I just encourage you not even try to respond to that stuff.
The only comment I have is, I would like to maybe in the future, or not maybe, here in the future, talk about the 1% road tax to see about keeping it in-house until we have projects for using that money for direct projects. I don't know, because we have concerns about the county using those.
Oh, the county,
The
yes.
county and the funds and how those are being, does that make sense?
Are we talking about 6C, the roads one?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say that I think we didn't put it on this agenda. We're probably gonna come
Right.
back at the next one during executive session to discuss terms as far as like what that is,
Okay.
as far as the
Right.
board's
That's-
considerations,
that's the only thing I
negotiation
had a
terms.
question about.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Sorry, Bill.
I thought you were talking about fire. I was, oh.
No, that's fine.
That's fine. Committee reports, I don't have a committee of architecture, they didn't have one last week, did they? No.
Pulling up. I can't off the top of my head.
It's coming forward, there's
Hold on,
one.
I've got a little cheat sheet for you.
There's a few in here. There's a committee meeting, this Thursday, the 26th,
PayCog, but
at 5:30.
yeah, that's a doctor's appointment for me. I won't be able to attend. I was on the list back in December, and one of their patients passed away, and they called me and slid me in there, and my wife said, yeah, he'll take it. And so it's a conflict, I won't be able to attend that.
So just going down the list here for the ones that we have?
Yes,
As far
thank
as
you.
the-
I was gonna state the ones in orange are the ones that are ready to be reported on from the last 2 weeks. So first up, it was Vice President Axworthy, but he's excused. There was a Desert Hawk Management Board meeting on March 11th. If you all wanted to talk about that.
You weren't, I think, in attendance for that one. I don't know, Director Roberts, if you feel comfortable? That was
Okay,
the-
so the Desert Hawk
I was there.
Golf Course Committee meeting last Friday, correct?
Yeah, sorry, there's two. You were at the first one and the
Yeah.
11th. The second one's the 20th.
Yeah, so we were looking at making the general manager, through a selection process, a Pueblo County employee, it was actually gonna cost more money along with the benefits package to do that. So we went back to our original candidate, Preston Ewan, and we established, a contract that our district manager and Brian Eggen worked together on. And we now have a golf course manager starting May the 1st. If I recall correctly, May the 1st.
I can't remember, Ryan, is that the right day?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
And so, I encourage everybody who actually goes out to the golf course, when you see Preston Ewing, congratulating. He should be a nice addition to our operation out there.
Okay, thank you. Next up is the pool committee that occurred on March 12th.
Oh, we just went over, interior design options.
Engineering, electrical, HVAC, all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah, no, not this one. This one was just the floors and the interior
Materials.
finishes.
Maybe that's the next one
The
coming up.
previous one was HVAC. You're right, that was included.
Yeah, because
HVAC.
we're talking about putting the unit outside.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're talking about putting it outside instead of upstairs on the mezzanine. And then we went into interior design, things, tile, floor, bathroom finishes, interior finishes. That was it?
That was pretty much it. Interior and exterior decorating, electrical and HVAC, and plumbing. So there is the option of putting the ventilation system on the roof or either a standalone unit on one side of the building.
Yeah, I think their engineer said it wouldn't work on the roof.
If we put it in the mezzanine, it's gonna be too difficult to put in and out of there, whenever there might be a required maintenance or replacement. Would not be cost effective,
So anyway, we're still moving forward with that.
but we're moving forward, yes.
Perfect, thank you. Legislative committee, I have Director Pasternak and President Vickers.
I was not able to attend that because of the pool meeting.
Yeah, I missed it too.
Christian?
I'll share not too many changes to things. I think we covered a lot of topics at the last meeting. I think that decriminalization of sex workers did drop. I think that one did not move forward. And then there's a couple ones that I think I came up with that were too controversial. The ones that we're still tracking that are big are the core ones that drop. So we're not going to see that go forward. The concerns about the state's potential implementation of an OSHA equivalent or trying to address in case OSHA disappears is something I think is still on the table for evaluation. And there's a couple other ones that we are still in the monitor phase and they haven't made progress yet.
Thank you. COA, President Vickers, March 12th.
I've had a lot going on in the last 2 weeks. Let's see, Shauna, we approved five, I think we approved five new homes, no commercial properties and numerous accessory structures, and then we had, I think 4 hearings.
4 hearings and 1 variance.
And a variance, yeah, that's right. Nothing out of the ordinary. Oh, did the new people take their seats? We announced the,
They'll take their seat at this Thursday's meeting.
Thursday, okay,
Do we get enough applicants to fill all the positions?
yes.
Awesome.
Just enough.
Okay, thank you. And then we have Director Pasternak with PEDCO.
They had a voting members only meeting, so I was uninvited.
And then the last one was Desert Hawk, but you all already covered that. So we are done with committee reports.
Announcements, April 3rd is the Fire Sales Tax Oversight Committee meeting at 9 a.m. at Fire Station 3 on 729 East Gold Drive. May 2nd, Tom Sawyer Fishing Derby, 8 a.m. at Cattail Crossing. May 9th, Mom and Son Nerf War at 1 p.m. at the Lovell Park Ball Field, number 1. And May 16th, Summer Kickoff Concert at the Civic Center Park at 4 p.m. How did the kites and?
That's what I was gonna ask. How
Yeah.
the kites
So last I checked in, I think around 2:33 of the event. There was about 72 people there, I think. It was kind of interesting because as you approached it, at first I thought, oh, it didn't look like a lot of people show up, but they all just congregated together. We learned some of our firefighters are not very good at flying kites, but they are better than me. And that there was a lot of enjoyment from kids, animals, and there was just a small little dachshund there. That I really enjoyed. So overall, it sounded like it went well. I'll follow up with Carol to see if there's anything we had as far as lessons learned, but it seems like it was really successful.
Yeah, I told Joe I'd be there, but
Yeah.
I had to leave.
I ended up having doing grandpa duties, so that couldn't be. Anyway, because I really wanted to go, but then my daughter had some stuff come up and I had to help with the granddaughter. Bill, if you don't mind, I have to do a shout out to Allison. I did the volunteer work for the parks and recs and stuff, and I highly encourage people to do so, even here on the board. Go out there and do some volunteer work, clean up the parks, help do that kind of stuff. Encourage the public to do the same thing. They had, I think, 3 different or 4 different groups that helped that day. River Grace was one of them, and we went out there and helped out, and I did my little shovel pose, so, a good politician
Like
would
you were
do.
doing something?
Yeah, just kidding. Anyway, so I digress. I encourage people to go out there. Allison was phenomenal. She was working on a Saturday, and I apologize she had to work on the Saturday for her, but it was really good. So I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to more. We're going to be doing more. So.
Well, tomorrow night, 5 to 7:30, I believe, is the
Yeah, that's what I was gonna bring up, yeah, round table
community roundtable.
at the library.
That's correct, isn't it, 5 to 7:30?
5:30.
5:30? Thank you. That's it. Make a motion to recess our regular session and go into an executive session. 24-6-402 4E, Colorado Revised Statutes determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. There'll be discussions relative to a tower lease renewal and also potential land acquisition. Then also 24-6-402 4B, Colorado Revised Statute conferences with an attorney for the public entity for the purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions. It's 567 East Tanninger Drive, update and discussion.
Second.
I have a motion second to enter into executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll have a 5-minute recess.